Where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Criminality, or if this is your first time here, welcome to Criminality. So I have, I've got a lot of stuff going on in my actual life over here. So I have not been live as I said I would be for Black Swan, but I have been watching the trial and I do have all my notes. So I will be going live on Black Swan, hopefully tomorrow. I'm going to continue with the hopefully. And this is why I don't feel like I can commit to streaming trials, because I swear there's not a day that something doesn't just randomly come up in my life. Am I looking extra spicy today? I feel kind of spicy. So that said, I'm doing my best to make sure I still bring you guys all the content that I promise you. It just sometimes isn't going to be in the time frame that I say that it is. But I'm doing my best. I swear I'm doing my best. But thank you guys for being here. We haven't talked about Delphi in a hot minute. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of why I haven't talked about Delphi in a minute. But then we're going to talk about Delphi. And then we're going to talk about some other stuff that has to do with Delphi, but really doesn't. So I know that's kind of like coded, but so just bear with me while we get through everything that I have to get through today. So some people have asked a couple questions about my poll that I put in here to begin with. It's worded a specific way because I want the answers to be those answers, which is why I put those answers, so that I can figure out when I get to the last part of this live exactly how I'm going to approach it. And it's not really just the last part of this live. It has to do with content that I plan on bringing to you. So I needed to know the answer that way. Let me say hi to everybody in chat and then we'll get started, and I'll tell you guys why I have not been covering Delphi for a hot minute. And then we'll talk about the filings in Delphi. Some are older, some are newer, some you've seen, but we're going to discuss them regardless. So if you are like, oh my gosh, this is so repetitive, I already know all this stuff, then this isn't the live for you. So I do feel kind of spicy. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to say that up front. Hi, Miku's headphones. I need to write my final film paper, but I'm too lazy. Are you almost done? You have to be almost done. I feel your pain because I just remember having to write so many papers, and I was like, I have to write another paper, and I don't want to do it. It's like you run out of shit to say in these papers to make them as long as they expect them to be. Hi, Hammy. Med gas guy. What's up? Hi, Dina. Hi, Veronica. Hey, Anon. Hi, an American girl. What's up, R&M? Hi, Phoenix. Hey, Brandola girl. What's up, malicious intent? Hi, heavy metal rehab. What's up, Robin? Family's more important. I know they are, but it's just so flippin' hot here right now. I feel like I'm just like, it is what it is. Ben, what's up? Hi, True Crime Fangirl. BG OG's here. Hi, Carrie. Shibby. Hi, Mandy. What's up, Tammy? You weren't late at all. I was just starting. Hey, Salty Sleuth Investigates. C-Dub. Hi, Helen. What's up, Big Fish, Small Pond? Hi, Simon. Thanks for being here. Hi, Richard. Hi, Amy. Let me see. 1960s in the house. And Kaleidohope's here. Nice. Let's see. Who else is up here? Tony, good question. Do crabs think? that fish can fly? It's a great question. I might make that my next poll question. What's up, Just Deb? Hi, Kit Kat. Hi, Joanna. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you. Miss you. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Carla. And Shaz. And Aaron's back in the house. Hi, Aaron. Lone Pony, what's up? Hi, DB. Summer semester is the worst. Like, how many more times can I talk about the use of light? Next semester is boring, but I get a 2-month break. That's nice. Let me see. Yeah, make sure you guys hit the like while you're thinking about it and why I'm not talking about anything of any substance. What's up, Cleveland Rocks? Hi, Scarlett. Been a few days. I've gotten my fill, though, with you joining other panels. Love to see it. Oh, hi, Chelsea. Hi, Cemetery Larry. I really think someone needs to take a much closer look at what's going on in Delphi. Something just don't seem right. I agree. You think I look calmer than ever? That's nice. Now I feel calm. Thanks, Shibby. Can always count on you. Get the wording correct. Hi, Digital. It's so nice to see you guys. Thank you guys for being here. So, as you know, this is not a Delphi channel. I don't exclusively cover Delphi, and I don't exclusively cover really any case. I kind of just get in my own headspace about what is on my brain, and then I come on here and I share it with you guys. So if there's a case like I'm interested in, then that's what I cover, and that's kind of how it's just always been. So this case right now with Delphi, Karen Reed happened, and I was like, okay, I really wanted to cover Karen Reed. I'd been invested in all the pretrial stuff, and I was like, okay, I want to watch that trial, and I'm so glad that I did. It was a very good trial. It taught me a lot. You know, I love law, and I'm not a lawyer. I do not have a law degree. I never went to law school. I have a degree in criminal justice and forensics, and that's what my degree is in. But that doesn't mean that I don't like law. So I like watching trials. I like learning, and I need to preface this entire live, as I always do. I don't care what your opinion on the Delphi case is per se. I don't care if you think he's innocent. I don't care if you think he's guilty. And as Shibby will make sure my caveat that Richard Allen is currently innocent. He is currently innocent until proven guilty in a court of law based on our Constitution, which is the most important. But I wanted to know what you guys thought. Like, with what you know so far, do you think Richard Allen is innocent? Do you think that he is guilty? Or are you still like, holy shit, I have no idea, and I'm trying to figure it out as we go? That's why I asked the question the way I did. I just wanted to know, I wanted to gauge on the people who are viewing this channel where your head is at this time. Because we haven't talked about this for a while, so people may have changed, right? So that's what I wanted to know. Hi, Hossein. Hi, Jen. And lean innocent. Yeah, 50-50. So, but there's always the fact that he is innocent until proven guilty. So I don't ever want to take that away from any defendant, whether I personally think that they are innocent or guilty before the trial starts. Because I have my opinions, and that's my opinion, and what you think is your opinion, and we obviously don't know. And then we can walk away from the trial and him be found not guilty and go, I'm pretty sure he's guilty. Or we could walk away from the trial going, wait a minute, they found him not or guilty, and he's not guilty. Like, it's a wrongful conviction. I have every one of those in my experience watching trials. So if you guys have ever watched the Zachariah Anderson trial, he was found guilty. I believe the man is innocent. So do I always think they get it right? No. But if you look at it, if you have to go with what is the definition of it, he is guilty. He was convicted in a court of law. Casey Anthony, you guys know how I feel about that shit. She was found not guilty. I think she did it. My opinion is she did it. And I think the jury got it wrong. But you know, I'm not the jury. So my opinion is just that. It's just my opinion. So I welcome all of your opinions about whether you believe a defendant is innocent, guilty, all of that. What I do not welcome is your opinions of each other. So if there is ever a comment that is derogatory towards somebody else in the chat, I ask that the mods delete it. I do not want that. I don't care about your opinions of other people. I just don't. I came into, or I should say, I came back to covering this case with the simple fact of I don't have friends in Delphi. Like I don't have friends in Delphi itself. I don't have friends in that necessarily in the Delphi community. And when I say that, what I mean is like my relationships with people, I didn't know anybody when I came in. Like I didn't know most of these people. I had watched Gray Hughes and I'd watched Anthony Greeno and a little bit of Matt Sullivan. And that was all I really knew about any coverage of Delphi. So I don't have like, I didn't come into this with like all these alliances of like, this is what I think, and this, and now I'm going to align with all these people and we're going to do these things. I wouldn't say my relationships, my online relationships with people has become what it is because of having conversations with people and how I appreciate how they treat me and how I can treat them and how we can talk openly about our opinions, whether we agree or not. Those are the people that I have gravitated towards. You'll see that I am in some chats. I am not in other people's chats. Now, I'm not here to say like, oh my gosh, I'm not in that person's chat and I fucking hate them and so on and so forth. I don't care. I don't care what chat you're in. So that's kind of where I want to make sure that you guys understand that. So when things kind of die down, when it comes to court filings or stuff in documentation, and when we kind of have gone through, like we went through, different books on the case. We went through court documents on the case. We've gone through open panels on the case to get people's opinions. I kind of was at a point that when the court filings died down, that I was like, okay, I believe that in my head, I've come up with these two potential scenarios. Neither one of them could be right. One that's in support of the prosecution's theory and one that's in support of the defense theory. And not necessarily the particular players, just the theory. And for me, that kind of wrapped it up for me. And I was like, okay, when stuff starts to die down, what ends up happening is that creators will start going after other creators and there becomes a fight. And then me, being who I am, who just built relationships based on personalities and people that I get along with, end up stuck in this position of you have to choose. You have to choose this side, or you have to choose this side, or this person's right, or that person's wrong, and da-da-da-da-da. And I don't know if anybody knows this about me yet, but I won't choose. I don't choose sides. I talk to who I want to talk to because I enjoy the conversation. Now, you may not understand why I enjoy the conversation, and that's okay. So if anybody chooses to not talk to me based on who I talk to, that is your right and your personal choice. And I won't take that away from you. But you're not going to take it away from me either. I'm going to talk to who I want to talk to. And like I said, I choose those people based on my conversations with them. Now, in saying that, I probably say so much shit that pisses people off, and those people still talk to me. I probably say stuff that they're like, that's fucking wrong, or why do you think that, or how the hell did you get to that point? And yet they still choose to talk to me. And I will say that there is not probably a single person that I've ever talked to in my whole life that I could say I like and agree with everything they have ever said. And so if I only chose to speak to people that I just said, yeah, I think that what you said was the right thing, good job, all the time, I would, one, be a fucking liar. And I don't want to do that. I don't always agree with people. I don't hate people based on things I don't agree with. I don't like people based on how they treat me and how I perceive their personalities to be. I perceive it, not how other people perceive their personalities, how I perceive it. And that causes problems for people because not everybody can see it that way. So I am very aware of that personal feelings can impact a person's ability to see things clearly. So if you get emotionally involved into something, and I'm not reading chat, so I apologize so much for anybody who's saying anything in chat. I will go back and I'll go through it, but I just wanted to finish this. But I mean, now see, I did that, and now I don't even know what the hell I was saying. That's my problem, and that's why I wasn't looking at the chat. Shit. What was I saying? Somebody tell me what I was saying. Shit. Oh, emotions. Emotions. Yes. So I'm not naive to that fact either. I don't use my channel to put other people down, or at least I try not to. And that's a conscious thing. So I don't ever want anybody to walk away and be like, "Oh my gosh, Teresa, she just never gets mad at anybody." I do. I have feelings. I get really pissed off. I consciously try to make commentary and decisions around the facts versus the emotions. That does not mean that my emotions do not get the best of me at times. They do. And if you guys have watched pretty consistently, you've seen times that people will come in here and make a comment and it really pisses me off. And then other times I'm like, you know what? I can make it's a conscious choice. Like I have to think about it and go, okay, am I going to react to this person because they made me mad, or am I going to react to this person and show factually how things are? Sometimes, because I'm a human being, I just get fucking mad because they say things and I'm like, nope, I can't. That's a line I can't cross. There was somebody with the Karen Reed case who came in talking about the kids, and I was like, nope, I can't go past it. That's not always the same. I don't know why that is, but it's just not always the same. Like sometimes, and it might just depend on the mood I'm in. It might depend on the personal shit that I've got going on in life. So I think like some days I look spicy, and some days I feel fucking spicy, and some days I'm like super calm and chill, and that comes into play. So when I think of commentary done by other people and talking about it, I try to take the human beingness of it all into consideration. And that's when we go back to like context is important. And so do I not overreact sometimes? Fuck yeah, I do. Do I not underreact sometimes? Fuck yeah, I do. I'm not just like I'm not a doormat, but I try to not have my temper take over my person. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody, but I hope that you guys, those who know me, probably understand that, because I try to be patient. That doesn't mean I always am. I try to be understanding. Doesn't mean I always am. I try to give the benefit of the doubt until there's no benefit left to give. I do all of those things, but it's not because oh, this is like, I'm just such a great person, I'm so nice and so wonderful. No, I do it as a conscious effort because I don't want to make the mistake of thinking one way and it being wrong because I didn't bother to see the other side. Now, it's ironic because we have, and anybody who follows this fucking case knows that there's a podcast out there that has been doing a bunch of shit that I absolutely disagree with. I absolutely disagree with it. And the irony behind it was I went, as soon as it started to happen, there's a lot of personal things that have happened in my life that it's reminiscent of. And I immediately was upset because my emotions got involved in it. And you guys are gonna think this is really fucking ironic, because I was watching, I think it might have been Dan's channel. I don't even know what I was watching. I was watching a channel and R&M was in the chat, and R&M made a comment and she was like, don't just believe me, ask questions. Like if you have a question, ask the question. Don't believe one side or the other, just ask the questions. And it was that put me like into the, she's not wrong. That's exactly what I try to do, because I'm so pissed at what's happening, I wasn't thinking that way. So I thought, I'm going to take a step back from this and I'm not going to talk about it for a hot minute, because I knew my emotions were more important to me at that point than the reality of what actually had transpired. So I didn't talk about it. And then there was filings that happened with Delphi. And I'm just giving you guys some backstory on why I refused to do anything with Delphi for a hot minute, so that you guys understand me. And so I was like, that's right. My emotions are going to get the best of me. So I'm going to back away from the situation for a hot minute, and I'm going to wait and I'm going to think about this. And then the filings come and I'm like, I'm not covering it because I know if I cover it, I'm still really emotional. and I'm going to end up saying something out of my emotions. Despite my many, many flaws. Thanks, Shibby. So I made a conscious decision to not cover it. I did go up on a couple of panels and share my very subdued thoughts of the situation because, like I said, I knew I was emotional, but I needed to say something. I do feel better now. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I do feel better emotionally about the situation now. Or I did. And then there's more stuff that happened today. So if you look at the thumbnail, I went through and I went over all the filings that we're going to talk about today when it comes to Delphi. And then I put at the bottom that I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done talking about Delphi. It actually makes me think I'm going to come back and talk about Delphi a whole fucking lot more because I believe that our community, the Delphi community on social media, is being gaslit. And I want to show the facts behind situations, and I'm not going to do it until I know that I can do it without the emotion of I don't like this person, but I like this person behind it. So I'm going to do it as factually based as I possibly can. So for today, we're going to go through the filings for Delphi. Like I said, a lot of you guys have seen them. It's not new stuff. It hasn't been covered on this channel, so I'm going to cover it. But I want to let you know that when this is done, I'm going to probably talk more like this again, and I'm going to go through what the plan is to go over the factual information so that our community of Delphi isn't gaslit into believing something that isn't true. And I think that people, and you need to go into it with the mindset of what is the legal requirements for certain things and not the emotional requirement for certain things. So when I ask at the beginning of this, what do you think? It's because it's an emotional opinion. It's emotional. It's an emotionally based answer, right? It's not a factually based answer, because if it was a factually based answer, then Shibby would be correct, where it's innocent until proven guilty. So it's based on emotions. Now, one thing, because I have sat on the fence now for shit, it's probably been a fucking year. We're in July. Shit, I didn't even realize it'd been a year. For the last year in this case, I'm of the mindset that I think that there's more that we need to look at. Because what's happening is an overpowering of I think somebody did this without having the facts is taking over the Delphi community. And I don't like that. Because bottom line is that he is constitutionally innocent until proven guilty. And for me personally, I don't have the belief that what we know so far will be enough. Now, I get that there's people out there in the world, and like I said, all opinions are welcome. I don't care if you think that he did it. I care about how you treat people in my chat and how you treat me when you're on the panel or in my chat. That's it. That's what I care about. You're going to come here, you're going to show respect to each other, and you're going to show respect to anybody that's up here with me, whether you like that person or not, because that's really the only thing I have. I don't care if you think that you know he did it. So in saying that, I'm going to check chat real quick, and then we'll get into some documents, and then I'm going to discuss some more after we go through the documents and get caught up on what the Delphi future holds for the content that I am planning and have some help getting. I will not be overrun by incorrect, out of context, non-illegal bullshit by people on the internet who want a group of yes men to agree with them, and if you don't, they remove you. I will not sit back and let everybody just say, oh, that must be the case, until I lay out all the facts and you guys make that choice. And at the end of it, you get to make the choice, but you're going to do it with facts and not the personal bullshit opinions of a few people who are creating an army of yes men. So at the end of it, if you still think the way that you think, that's fine. But if you don't, you don't. But I'm going to give you the facts behind it, not the bullshit with it. That's where it is. So now let's check chat. So like I said, I don't like the creator drama. That's why we're not gonna lay it out with the creators. We're gonna lay out what the facts of the information is, and the facts of the information, I'm gonna present it to you, and we're gonna see it on a legal standard, and you're gonna see exactly what is right and what is wrong. Okay, let me see. Hi, Kayla. No mystery. Lots of people know. You are not one of them. I don't know what that means. So I think I should probably scroll up to read chat, because if I start going backwards, shit's going to not make sense. So let me scroll up. Oh, way up. Okay, so that was my little pedestal speech, and now I'm going to be off of it. Hi, Greenlee. Okay, trying to find where I stopped. I could never with a good conscience say he's guilty. No evidence, really. Absolutely, exactly. Hey, hi, LFT. I thought he was absolutely innocent, but then I listened to the last, and I think he's absolutely innocent. The real question is, are ISP and CC full of murky shit? Survey says yes. Yes. We're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about how many people are in communication with certain folk. We're going to talk about it. Hey, T. Hi, Judge Jessica. At this moment, I believe he is factually innocent, but if evidence is shown, I can be persuaded. That's kind of where I'm at. Hey, Giselle. The direction of focus from 217, me being there, I lean innocent. Too much fuckery to know. I think that's always been my issue, is the fuckery. It's like, how can you know with so much fuckery? And we're going to talk about some of the online fuckery from that side. This poll didn't matter at all in the Apple River case. Once they dangle lesser charges in front of the jury, they take it and run with it. Oh, I didn't highlight that comment. Hold on. They feel like they did something for everyone that way. I know that's a problem with lesser charges, is this need of the jurors to find a compromise. So like if they end up with any type of split in the jury room, it's like they're like a 6-6 or a 5-7 or whatever. They're like, all right, let's just come to the agreement that he didn't do this then, but we're going to agree to this. And they compromise, and that's so bad. It's so bad, but it happens so often. I hate lesser charges. It's like you charge them with this, like fucking prove it. My question is, why is ISC Judge Rush supporting these shenanigans? Well, she assigned Judge Gold. And we can talk about Judge Gold too in a second. Hi, Dean. Giselle says, I'm not sure if he's innocent or guilty. I just don't think he's getting a fair trial. The judge is too biased against him. Right. Hi, Irish Jenny. YouTube can be very toxic. It absolutely can. Hi, Hybrid. What's up, Cryptex? Hi, Coventina. Hey, Scott. There's people on death row with a hell of a lot less than they have on Richard Allen. And that should scare the shit out of people. That should scare the shit out of people if it's even less than what they have on Richard Allen, because they don't have a lot. Harkening back to Watts times, right. 100% believe RA is not getting a fair trial. Judge Gold needs to go. I want justice for Abby and Libby, not a retrial years later. I agree. Enjoy that you enjoy. Hey, Wayward. Scott, something to keep in mind, either last year or the year before, over 200 people were exonerated in the U.S. after being found guilty and serving time. That's scary. That's a scary thought. That's a scary conversation happening in chat, because it's true. He's an independent thinker who can't word poll specifically. I worded it specifically for what I needed, Shibby. You better back up. Better back up off me. upset me. Well, it's not, we're friends. So that there's a difference. It's not a Delphi situation. There are a handful of people that I met during the Delphi trial that I know would stay and still want to talk to me after Delphi's over. That makes sense. Hi, Quietly Concerned. I like that name. I love this channel. So fed up with Delphi drama. This is the one channel that is free of drama, and that's why I watch it. Hi, thank you. Judge Jessica says, oh my gosh, it sucks that you would have to say this. The creator in fighting, not including you whatsoever in that, is so bizarre and distracting on this case. Well, is it intentional? That's, I think, where I'm at with it. Like, that's what I want to come down to is there an intentional campaign to do this? And then what happens is, and like, I think, was it C-Dub? C-Dub, did you just bring up Watts? Or was that, yeah, a hearkening to Watts times. In the Watts case, what we saw, and why I think I see it so clearly, is because I lived it. I lived it, and then once you see it, it's like one of those, like, holy shit, you can't unsee this. What happens is there's handlers, is what I call them. So there's your head honcho people, and then they have handlers, and those handlers go out into the world, and what they're doing is trying to recruit other people. And what I think people don't understand is if you're susceptible to it, you need to keep your eyes open that you're not being used. Even if you switch sides and you think you were being used, that doesn't mean that you're not being used now. And I think that people don't see that part. So that's where we're at. No fair trial, but something is really wrong with Ellie there and in a lot of places now. I agree. And I also think it's an interesting switch if you just look at law enforcement in general and take a look at some of the older cases, such as like the crime against the girls in Delphi, and things that have happened with law enforcement in the United States and how they're perceived from the time that happened to now. It's interesting because if you look at it at that time, what law enforcement was capable of, what they were getting away with, it was a lot less noticed. People weren't digging in. People weren't spotlighting it as much. And then as we've grown over the years with social media and more independent reporting and not mainstream media that's bought into one side or another, we start to see a lot of the flaws in law enforcement. And then you have the extremists who are like, well, let's just get rid of law enforcement and defund the police. And I'm not there. I don't think that either, because if I need somebody, I'm still calling the cops. But I think that their actions are they were swept under the rug a lot more, especially in little tiny towns like Delphi. Thank you, guys. You guys brought me back on track. We're saying how there isn't one person you agree with except for Mallory. They find artificial condolence in the weaponized judicial system, which has been rebuilt into something unrecognizable. Very well said. Of course he's going to plead not guilty. Well, I mean, Scott, like, there's a lot of people online that think that he's actually going to try to plea out. I don't see it. I don't think he's taking a plea. Right, because he can walk into the interview room with TV camera people and follow up with the appointment for interview he made. T is part human, part cyborg. Look at her avatar. It's true. My avatar is full proof that I am part cyborg. There's no editing done to that photo. This is all AI. Oh, thank you, Ben. So I'm not always. That's why I'm like, I want to make that clear. Goodness, I feel like I really missed something. But don't worry, Kit Kat. We're going to fill you in. All right, so I went way back in the chat, and I think I'm like super behind. Hi, Luke. For real, an important message and great ethos to aspire to. Oh, thank you. Wow, that's very kind. Thank you. So wait until after trial. for me, I don't think I have a choice, because there's no amount of information that's been shared with the public thus far that pushes me into that he's guilty. So therefore, he's innocent, right? Because it's the burden is to show the evidence to the jury. And if I'm the jury right now, like let's just say I'm the jury right now with what's been said, then there's too much reasonable doubt and he's innocent. That's where we're at. That's where I'm at. Richard Allen had a drinking problem, and he had a problem with young girls, and he found out these girls were communicating with predators, and he was mad, mad enough to kill them. That's an interesting theory. I'd be curious, do you have, Scott, do you have somewhere that you have like shown like what got you to that theory? Where it shows like all the information that made you think he's got a drinking problem and a problem with young girls? Like, I'd love to see that. Because it kind of goes along with my, and I'm not saying that facetiously, I hope you know that. It kind of goes along with my, like I told you guys, I have like the two working theories of the one for the prosecution theory and then the one for the defense theory. So, T, you're a flawed human being, humble to a T. Yeah. Maybe. Any defendant should ever testify at their trial. Sometimes I don't think they have a choice. I think that they're the only person who can present the evidence that a jury needs. But I think it's always a bad idea because defendants just come across as super fucking narcissistic because they're trying so hard to create emotion around whatever feeling they're supposed to have or that they think the jury is supposed to have versus just having the emotions that they should have. What is his mental state today? I don't think anybody fully knows, but from if we go by the indication on how filings are, it seems the perception is that he's much better off in Wabash than he was in Westville, but they still want him moved to the jail because trial's coming up here in October. So this case is like a boil that needs lancing. We need a trial, and so do the families. Delphi has made a lot of people mentally unwell. That is so true. So true. You like that voice. I hope so, C-Dub. The tiny one is my little Sour Patch Kid, though. So you never know. Never know with that one. A tiny human. He's got a little temper in him. The other two are calm. Teresa, there's just something about you no matter what. I like you. Thank you, Teresa. It has something to do with your personality, your vibe. I don't know, but I love you, and I love the Defense Diaries, and I love Jay. Thank you. And that's kind of, I try to tell people because I think that so many get caught in one case, and maybe that's it, but because I cover so many cases that I've come to know, like, I agree with people on some, and I disagree with people on others, and if I just hated everybody for disagreeing with me on one case, then I'd be in trouble. But it makes more sense, I think, when you have a Delphi specific channel and people agree or disagree with you. You know, that's not the channel you go to, right? For me, it's like I don't care if people actually agree with me. If I don't like them, I'm not going back to the channel. Thank you, Rejected Peace. You guys are too nice to me. Thank you. You're a good one. You're good one. You guys are good ones too. Can you do Delphi for the Lost? I'm going to, Tara. I'm going to put together. So I have the Prezi, but the Prezi is more like a past rendition of Delphi, I feel. I feel like it gives people all the history of Delphi that they don't necessarily know. Like all the POIs and all the players and all the some of the shenanigans on social media it goes through. So I'm gonna actually do more of like a pre-trial prep that'll go through the crime, the theories, the evidence that we know, and like the who's who and like a timeline. I think I'm gonna do something like that that's more like a Prezi simplified and takes out the history. The Prezi was truly because I have so much, and I still do, and I haven't finished it. That's another reason I'm like, I got to go back. I got to finish this. I got to see the rest of this through. I hate not finishing shit, which is why I went back and got my bachelor's degree, because it was something I did not finish when I was young. But so I need to go back and finish it. So I'm going to do that. but it's more of like and I needed a place to put all the shit that I have. I have so many screenshots from over the years. There's so much information. But I'm like, I need a place to put this and organize it so it makes sense. So that's what the Prezi became. But I'm gonna do like a pre-trial. Here's everything that like what you need to know going into trial kind of thing. So you'll get that. I'm gonna do that. Okay, so if a few people have seen the whole 43-second video, that's interesting to me. Do you think that they saw it pre-arrest or post-arrest? Delphi is going to be popping soon because we have, I mean, it's going to be popping soon anyway. We have the hearings coming up next week. Is it next week? Yeah, it's next week. Yeah. The 30th, the 31st, and the 1st. So my opinion is that those hearings are going to be very, very interesting. They're going to be very, very interesting. I hope that we have people from both sides there, and I also hope that somebody's there that doesn't have a side. Because if you get, otherwise you're going to get a very imbalanced reporting of what actually happens in court. You're going to get a very defense-heavy side, and you're going to get a very prosecution-heavy side. So I'm hoping that we have somebody in there that just takes the notes like as is, without the additional. I accidentally put on a video of someone who was shitting on people asking questions regarding Delphi, and I was fuming for like 26 hours. Right. And so I know this sounds dumb, but I'm just like, you know, as we gear up for these hearings, I'm back, you know, Karen Reed's done. Black Swan's going to be super short, which we knew. And so I'm like back into like listening to a lot of stuff on Delphi. And I'm like, there is no place for people. And let's take a look at the poll while we do this. There is no place for people that are unsure. There is no place to go. Like there's no, like the channels are very pro-defense and very pro-prosecution. I know that there are some that are more open-minded and allow different thoughts, but it's, yeah, so like right now the poll, and I'm gonna go ahead and we have 202 votes, which is pretty much what we have in the chat. So we have 16% who currently believe that Richard Allen is the right guy, that they have arrested the right guy. Wait, where the heck did my thing go? There it is. And then 37% in chat. That's a lot. 37% in chat who actually think he's not it. He's completely innocent. He's not the right guy. And then we still have 46, almost 50% of people are unsure. They don't know. That's true. I have Apophis. That is true. Open-minded channels do get labeled pro-defense because you have to be like super like he's guilty to be. Otherwise, it is a pro-defense. I'm not even necessarily, for me, I'm like not pro-defense. I'm pro-prosecution. I just want them to prove it. I guess I shouldn't say I'm pro-prosecution. It's not necessarily true. That's an in general statement. I'm typically a pro-prosecution person. I just want them to prove it. And if they don't prove it, and that's kind of what we're running into in the Black Swan case, is I know a lot of info about that case, and the attorneys, the prosecutors are being held back from being allowed to present a lot of evidence in court. And so the jury, I'm like, did the prosecution prove to a jury that she did it? Right now, I'm like, I don't know. So, but almost 50% of people are still just as fucking confused as I am. So, pro-constitution, pro-truth, right? That's exactly how I feel about myself. Hey, Kraken, the thing with Delphi that we need to theoretically ask is why and who enforced a narrative of staunch sides? The internet is very anonymous and intentional when needed. So true. That's like the whole, like where I say like there's handlers, there's specific people that are being put out into the world to drive information. And do not fool yourselves into thinking that both sides of any case don't try to do that in a high profile case. They absolutely do. Yes, Majestic Unicorn, absolutely. He is an innocent person until the prosecutor proves that he is guilty. Oh, hi, Idaho Charlie. Let me see. Did you find the transcripts much different than the in-person notes taken? Sorry if I'm rushing it and you are covering it later. I'll go with like one of the last hearings, for instance. A lot of people on social media attended it and took notes, and I was sent a handful of notes from different people. Um, I would say that the note taking was interesting because things were missing on notes, because obviously things are happening kind of fast and not everybody can write as fast. So certain things were missing, but more so it's the commentary on social media after, where they're like, oh man, the defense is just, they're assholes. I can't believe they did this and that and said this or this. And then there's the other side that's like, Judge Gull, she's such a bitch, and by all means, like, that's their feelings, so have at it. But it becomes very like, there's stuff missing in the notes. So like Sleuthy and I took all the notes that we were given and we went and watched the channels that had gone and were reviewing their own notes, and we wrote the notes, and then we tried to combine them into one full set of notes. Like, so it was by that time when we reviewed it on here, everything was really combined, and I think we got a very full picture. So when we got the transcripts, it did match. There was certain wording that I found in the transcripts that was a little different than what we come up with, but it took us going through all the people's notes that sent them to us and listening to all the commentary from the people that were there to come up with that. So the transcript's way fucking easier. But you don't get the tone and tenor, like Bob would say. You don't get to know exactly what was said and how things were said. So you kind of just have to read between the lines, as Judge Gull would say. Hi, Heather. I was a Fed for 27 years. I'm overwhelmingly pro-prosecution, but not when they are dirty law enforcement. And I think that it's naive to think that there isn't dirty law enforcement. Hey, Gam. I really hope he is guilty. He's probably not, because otherwise what has happened to RA is egregious. It's scary. It's scary either way, because if he is the guy and he's found not guilty because of shenanigans by law enforcement and the prosecution, then you have a killer who walks free, and that's fucking scary. So it's like, no matter what side you're on, everybody needs to hold the prosecution to the threshold of what is required of them. And that's to be honest. And I bring up the example often when I do talk about Delphi, that if there was no Richard Allen arrest, let's just say Richard Allen wasn't arrested, and it comes out from a whistleblower or in some other court hearing that we had lost essentially 70 days of audio and video recordings of interviews when it came to the case. Let's just say that. Just that one by itself. If there was no arrest and the public is this intrigued with the case, why my nose is like so itchy. If the public's so interested in the case and you find out in this investigation that the people who did the investigation lost 70 days worth of information pertaining to their investigation, like, wouldn't everybody be pissed? But because Richard Allen is arrested, there's the excuse of it's okay that they lost it because it's not necessary anyway, because they found their guy anyway. And it's like, no. Like, it's still an issue. It's an issue that they lost 70 days worth of video and audio. Thank you, Patricia. So I think if people looked at what the prosecution and law enforcement has done to the investigation itself and take away a trial, and this is hard because not everybody can kind of separate things like that, and I get it, but if you just look at what law enforcement has done, then it becomes problematic in an investigation to get the guy who did it. So why isn't it problematic to try to prove the guy did it that they think did? Do you see what I mean? Like, those are all issues. Those are law enforcement issues. If he isn't guilty, then I feel so bad for the families. RA2, but the families. I can't even imagine having hope that they got him and they go back to day one again. True. And it wouldn't be the first time that that's happened, because remember, it was leaked when they arrested, what's his name, in Colorado and brought him over. Chadwell? Is that Chadwell? I think that's Chadwell. I'm trying to remember everybody. The families it was reported in like the news that they thought they had a guy connected to the Delphi crimes. And so the families were like, got up, and then they're just let down when law enforcement comes out and says, no, we do not think he has any ties to this crime. Yeah, I don't know how anybody can say that kind of stuff. So I need to find, you know what? I actually think that DB and I were talking about it. Let me find it. Because when it comes to the information in this case, I think that this clip, although not about the case, is extremely important when we talk about exculpatory and inculpatory evidence. And so I had touched briefly on the Rush trial, as most of you guys that were watching, when we happened to be live, and the judge ended up dismissing all of the charges with prejudice in the Alec Baldwin case because of a Brady violation by the prosecution. And so the attorney, there was two prosecutors, and when the information was let out in court that there was this other evidence, and she found out about it, they went to lunch, and she told the other prosecutor, like, hey, we need to, this isn't going to work. Like, we need a mistrial. Like, we're done. Like, this isn't going to work. We can't do this. And the other one was like, hell no. She like doubled down and took the stand and started testifying about how it wasn't exculpatory evidence. And the judge ruled, and obviously it's a different state. So I mean, every state has their own thing, but it goes to the truth of how exculpatory evidence is determined and who gets to determine if it's exculpatory. And so this is the prosecutor. All right, hold on one second. Yes, that one. Thank you. So like I said, it's not about the Delphi case, but you just have to listen to the legal pieces of what this person is saying. Hold on, I'm going to bring it up on the screen with sound. Hi, Kayla. Kill, what's up? What if, as a society, we've become so accepting of half-assed that it's just what we get? Well, that's kind of like what I was saying to Scott earlier. It seems like there's people in prison or on death row with less evidence than what they have against Richard Allen. That's fucking scary. I think that our beyond a reasonable doubt should be very clear to American citizens that are going to be serving on juries and what that actually means. Okay, let me see. Right, it's incredibly disrespectful to Abby and Libby to have not treated this case with the profound importance that it warranted from day one. I can't imagine how stressful it is for the families. I agree with you. I agree with you. I would never want to be in their situation. I would never want to be. I never would want anybody like that to have a loss like that in my family whatsoever, and have to go through the public scrutiny of it. But here's the thing: that is their life now. And I don't judge the people who do scrutinize, because if we look at statistics in crime, family members are statistically responsible. It's not normally a stranger. So I'm also not mad that people looked at the families and said, okay, wait a minute. Law enforcement should have looked at the families and said, hey, wait a minute, this is what's going on. So I don't hold the opinion about the families, but I never wish them harm or ill will. But there are people who still think they have involvement. So then it's like, yeah, what do you do? All right, let me bring this up. Like I said, not about the Delphi case. This is not about the Delphi case, but it is very important to just our legal system as a whole. So I think it's important to listen to when we have a prosecutor in this case who continuously tells us that the information he did not turn over is not exculpatory, so it doesn't matter.
One of the lead prosecutors, not the one who took the stand, Morrissey.
You guys can hear it. Hey, Sniper. If Libby took a photo of Abby with her phone at 2:07 and Libby took a video at 2:13, then the geofence would pick up Libby's phone. Should have. That would be kind of cool. I don't either, Brandola girl. I don't either. I don't either. I don't know how they can do that. Okay, everybody can hear. Can you guys hear it okay?
The one who gave the opening statement.
Yes. Yeah, Nick also said, if the cops destroyed it, but you found it elsewhere, then it's not destroyed anymore, and we shouldn't get in trouble for it, right? So it's, and I think this is also my struggle, is because people do think Richard Allen is the guy, that means that anything law enforcement and the prosecution does that's inaccurate or wrong should just be tossed aside as unimportant. Like, it's okay that they screwed all this stuff up. It's okay that they don't do these things. Well, it's not okay. It's not okay, because the next time, even if he is the guy, the next time they think it's okay to screw things up and still just get their guy. It's not okay. Our legal system and our law enforcement needs to be accountable so that our constitutional rights are continuously protected by these people. This is so the government doesn't take over. If the government can just make mistakes and throw everything out and do whatever the hell they want, then they have control over everything that we are. And they can put you away or your son away or your brother away anytime they fucking want to. And I'm not okay with that. Okay.
Quit today. Why? Guess what? This almost never happens. This prosecutor wants to be heard enough that she's coming on TV right after this happened. Erlinda Ocampo Johnson joins us now. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity.
So this is the one that quit, that they went to lunch and she was like, yeah, no, this is not good. This is going to be really bad that you had this evidence. This other prosecutor knew about this evidence and he didn't tell anybody. Like, this is going to be bad. And she's like, no, we're going forward with the case. And she's like, well, you are. I'm not. I'm fucking out. And she like goes in after lunch, tells the judge, you know, I want out. I want off of this case. And then there's like news report. I think he actually talks about it, so no spoilers. All right, I'm just gonna let the interview play for a little bit, and then if I have to say something, I'll say something. But otherwise, I'll hang out with you guys in chat.
Hi, Chris.
First, let me give you a chance to respond what was said about you. Another member of the team said you left the team because you didn't like that this Brady hearing was public.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I left because I learned.
Yes. Okay. See, I already stopped it. So the team of prosecutors make a statement to the public saying that this attorney quit because she was upset that the Brady hearing was going to be public and thought it should be private. And this went around. That was the first. That was the probably first 5 things I heard right after it was done, when I was watching all the interviews people were given, or like all the news commentary on it, before I saw her actually talk. So many news people said, yeah, and then the attorney quit because she was mad that they were going to show the Brady hearing publicly. And it's like, where the fuck did you get that?
About this evidence when the public learned about it yesterday, late afternoon. As I don't know if you're aware, I actually came on this case kind of late in the game. I came on the case towards the end of April. So I had to get up to speed. I was not involved in the Hannah Gutierrez case at all. And so I was not aware that this individual had taken this ammunition to the sheriff's department and provided it to the officers. I learned all of that yesterday when Mr. Spiro was cross-examining the crime scene technician. So I inquired some more. And this morning, when the motion hearing began, my position was during the lunch hour, before the lunch hour, during the lunch hour, we have an obligation as prosecutors. We have an obligation not only to the people, but to the defendant.
Mm-hmm.
And our obligation is to make sure that all the evidence is turned over. We don't get to decide what the defense is going to be. Our job is to ensure transparency and to ensure that the defendant has everything that the prosecution has gathered. What they do with
that, what do you mean? Everything the prosecution has gathered throughout an investigation should be turned over to the defense? What? And that the prosecutor doesn't have the right to say what the defense is going to be? What?
That's up to them. Go ahead.
Two things. One,
Sure.
The better minds that I bring on the show, because what do I know, were very impressed by your opening. They felt that you had good command and that you made a very strong case. Did you believe that Alec Baldwin should be found guilty?
I did. I believed the evidence that we had. I had no idea that there was this other evidence that had not been turned over. That there were some actions that were done during the filming, and there was some recklessness. I did based on the evidence that was available. But my job is not to get a conviction. It's to put the evidence before a jury. That's how I saw my job, is to put all this evidence before the jury and let the jury decide. But once things start, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I want to hear you. But once things what?
So once I learned that this evidence was not turned over, that it was there, it was under a different case number, and my obligations, my ethical obligations as a prosecutor. Now, keep in mind, I've been a prosecutor. I was a state and federal prosecutor for over a decade. I've been a prosecutor. I've been a criminal defense lawyer for the last 16 years. So I've been on both sides. And I know what you're required to do. And when this came to light, I think that the best decision would have been for the state to dismiss the case. That's why I resigned.
Really?
Because I believed that case should have been dismissed. And I advocated for that over the lunch hour, and it wasn't. And so when we came back after the lunch hour, I asked to withdraw.
So you wanted the prosecution team to walk away from the case. They said no. So you said, then I'm walking away. And then the judge basically agreed with you. So I have two questions. First one is, so you believed it should be dismissed. Explain to people who don't understand anything about the law, why did you believe this ammunition was so important for the defense?
So obviously, you're a lawyer.
Okay, so this is interesting. And so somebody else, Shibby says, like, do we leave Delphi? No. This particular interview is about the Rust trial, but the commentary is important, I believe, for any legal case ever, always, in cases whether I think the person did it or not, or I think they arrested the right guy or not. We had this conversation. I know not everybody here follows the Idaho 4 case, but we had this conversation when Ann Taylor, who's Brian Koberger's defense attorney, was claiming that there was important information that she knew the prosecution had to have had based on other information that they were given. Like, you couldn't have got to this point without having XYZ, but you didn't give us XYZ. So we know that you have it. Otherwise, you couldn't give us this. And I'm all for it. Like, I'm like, okay, let's see what's missing. And the fucking one of the investigators takes the stand. He's like, oh yeah, I put it in this file folder on my desktop, and I just forgot it was there. And it's like, no, that's not okay. Do I still think that they have the right guy? Yeah, but no, that's not okay. And that's the kind of shit that's going to make somebody like a Koberger walk free. So don't play games as the prosecutor. Don't play games as law enforcement. Get your fucking ducks in a row, get your shit together, and present it to the defense. And what she's saying here is, we don't get to decide what the defense is going to be. like, and not like the defense team, but what the defense of the defendant is going to be. It's not our choice. So he asked her, like, why do you think it was even important? Like, what's the defense going to do with it? Because according to the prosecutor who took the stand and said, you know, it wasn't important because of XYZ, she's saying that's not our choice. We don't get to make that decision. As the prosecutor, and she was a federal prosecutor as well, we don't get to make that choice. So, but because she's also done defense, she thought about it and she was like, well, they could have used it to say this. They could have used it to say that. And she went through all the potential scenarios on what the defense could have said with it. Not what the hell they were going to say with it, what they could have said with it. And to her, it was like they could have used it and possibly switched a juror's mind. And as a prosecutor, we have an ethical obligation to make sure that we give everything to the defense so they have that opportunity. And then we have a prosecutor in the Delphi case who's just like, it's not important. It's not exculpatory. Doesn't matter. I don't have to give it to you. And it's like, well, you don't have the right to say that they can't use a third-party defense and who they want to use. So if, let's say with the Delphi case with Brad Holder, if Brad Holder has this alibi and he talks about it in these interviews and they prove it in these interviews, why wouldn't they give that over? Because of course it's not exculpatory, but you can't. What are you going to bring it up in trial? Why wouldn't you give it over? Why are you keeping it? Why are you getting rid of it? Why is it being buried? Thank you, Mother of Dragons. So anyway, so she's about to talk about like her mindset on why she thought it was important. So I just wanted to kind of preface it.
I think Brady versus Maryland imposes requirements on the prosecution to turn over evidence. The rules of criminal procedure impose those requirements, those duties as well. So is the evidence material? That's number one. How timely is the disclosure? Without question, this was grossly untimely. Number two, is it material? So the question is, could the defense have made some use of this evidence in their defense? And like I said, we as prosecutors do not get to make that decision what the defense is going to be. It's, can the defense use this and could it potentially raise some sort of reasonable doubt? And you have to step back. You're not an advocate. As a prosecutor, you're not an advocate. You are there to present the facts and to present the evidence. And your job is, and that's why I took this case on. I agreed to come on board, is because there was a woman who was killed. No question about it. This was tragic. And something happened. And a jury needed to make that decision. And so I believe in the system. And unfortunately, something went horribly wrong here, and I was not aware of it. And when I did become aware of it, my ethical obligations dictated that I advocate for a dismissal.
So let's talk about what went wrong, okay? And, you know, you guys at home can Google Brady versus Maryland. It's a 1963 case that basically just goes to things that either could be exculpatory, meaning it's evidence that the defense could use to show it wasn't them, or what they call impeachment, which is evidence that the defense could use to show that one of the witnesses for the prosecution is full of it. Okay, basically that's what Brady was. They call it Brady material. Your co-counsel says you have it wrong, that this ammunition, she knew about it, obviously, and she says, nah, it didn't have any real value. It had no resemblance to the ammunition that is involved in Alec Baldwin's case. Why would I turn it over?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, a jury could have believed that, but our obligations are to turn all evidence over that could potentially be used by the defense in their defense. It's not for us to decide what is the defense going to be. It's not for us to say, well, his defense was he didn't pull the trigger. So his defense is not.
I got you. But here's the tough question. The suggestion, not from you, from me, is that this may have been in bad faith. Your co-counsel knew about this. She was willing to get on the stand, take the oath, and say, I didn't see any value here. Defense counsel and you echo the same standard. You don't get to decide whether or not it has value. She says, yes, I do. Otherwise, how do I know what to turn over? And I thought this didn't meet the standard. What is the standard, and why do you believe co-counsel got it wrong?
Well, there's, I mean, this is a lot to process. Obviously, I learned about this yesterday evening. But just in looking at, so the first time I look at this evidence was this morning because it was brought over to court. I think as you saw, the judge had them open the envelope. And so there were 3 rounds that looked very similar to the live rounds that were found on the set of Rust. If, thinking as a defense attorney, I'm thinking the defense could have argued Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was a great armorer. She was completely competent, and there was sabotage. So you have that potential sabotage angle. So then at that point, potentially those 3 rounds do become potentially exculpatory. But the point is, it should have been turned over. It wasn't turned over. And
you think it met the standard? Any way you look at it, it should have been turned over. It was enough for you to step away. I want to ask you about the case now that it's dismissed, because I
think that pretty much covers the parts that I wanted to show you guys. So she's gone over it a couple different times, but he's like, the attorney that took the stand is saying it doesn't meet the standard. It's not exculpatory, which is what we hear a lot in the Delphi case. And she's saying, well, we don't have the right to say that it's not exculpatory. And so in her mind, she looks at all the scenarios of, could the defense make this defense? Could the defense make this defense with this evidence? And therefore, it does meet a standard no matter how you look at it, because the defense can use the information, which is what the defense in Delphi is saying. Like, you don't get to tell us that we can't use this certain information as a defense, because you don't get to control what our defense of our client is. So from a prosecutor in a high-profile case, she's been a federal prosecutor, and she's also been a defense attorney. So to me, I was like, that interview speaks volumes. Very important. Okay, so let's get to some of the documents. Let me see, did Laura answer? Because I think Laura was talking to me, but I don't know for sure. So I wanted to make sure whatever part needed clarified, I clarified it. She said, I agree with what you're saying, but why you're being so cryptic, maybe just come out with who you're talking about. Otherwise, it's frustrating. I don't know if that's to me, but I don't really have a necessary who I'm talking about, unless we're talking about the podcast, which I kind of thought was self-explanatory. So I don't know if that's to me, though. So I'll wait for a comment back from Laura to find out, because I have no problem with that. All right. So since we've last met, which was when the defense had filed a lazy judge motion, and we were waiting to hear back from essentially the Supreme Court ruling on whether they were going to remove her for being lazy. And we got that, which is a little bit old now. Like I said, some of this is kind of older, but I'm just going to cover it and touch on it based on what we've, from the last point that we talked Delphi to now. So we know that the ruling was that Judge Gull is not lazy, and that she was within her rights to not rule on those, and they cannot call her lazy because essentially the defense cannot call Judge Gull lazy, because even though she didn't rule on these things, they still continued to file motions and request for hearings and things like that. And if they really thought she was lazy, they should have filed it the day that it was due, which would be like the 30-day mark that she had. So if she was lazy, immediately they immediately should have just been like, nope, you're lazy. Here's the motion to have you gone. And they didn't do it in a quote unquote timely fashion, which is is ironic when it comes to this case on things being in a timely fashion. So they say, nope, if you want to try to use a lazy judge motion, you need to do it immediately. So hence, any other attorney in specifically the state of Indiana now, if you're going to file a lazy judge motion, you need to do it immediately and not file another fucking thing on that case until you file that. So 30 days, day 31, boom, file the lazy judge. Do not file another fucking thing, because if you do, they now have set precedent that says, too bad, you filed more stuff, and so you still liked her and wanted her to hear you out. Kind of crazy to me. Like, you're not supposed to continue to proceed with the case, but it is what it is. I guess that's the ruling that they had. So now I think that this could be damning for other situations, other cases. There's a video of NM explaining why he needs money in another building to store everything, because when an arrest is made, the defense will want everything. Right. He also states I wish I remembered what filing it was, that he gave the defense team everything, that they didn't even go through and like organize it at all. They just literally were like, here you go. Here's everything we have. We don't care if it's inculpatory, exculpatory. We're just going to give you everything. And then when it comes down to like, okay, well, we don't have this, or we don't have this, and you didn't give us this, then they find out, oh, well, or then they admit to, one, we've accidentally deleted a bunch of shit. And then two, they start fighting that it's not exculpatory, so it's not necessary to hand over. But why in your one filing did you say openly, it's okay? We gave them we just literally handed it to them. We were just like, here's everything we've ever had, and we don't care. But then all of a sudden you do care, and now you have to admit that you actually don't have shit. Because let's just go with this. If they weren't looking for specific interviews and things that had transpired during this quote unquote 70 days of missing shit, would it have ever come out that it was accidentally deleted? Because that information was not offered voluntarily. It wasn't like right at the beginning of the case, like, hey, we need to let you guys know that we had a faulty DVR. It was brand new. There was mistakes. This is what happened. No, that was fucking hidden away. It was covered up until somebody was requesting specific things for it or from it. And then it was like, ooh, oopsie daisy. We don't really have that. But that's okay to people, because they're like, Richard Allen's guilty, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they try to hide shit. It doesn't matter if they don't want to turn over exculpatory evidence. It doesn't matter. And so another reason I really like that attorney that I was showing you guys her interview is because she actually thinks that Alec Baldwin was guilty. She was like, no, I think that he would have been found guilty, but it doesn't matter, because that's not my ethical duty. Like, I have a responsibility, and I took an oath. And so it doesn't matter that I think he's guilty. It matters that they didn't give them the evidence that they should have, and now we'll never know what the jury would have decided. Like, talk about an ethical attorney. Okay, so Judge Gold stays. My opinion on this is I said we were going to talk about Judge Gold later, so I guess this is the later. Watching the stuff from Karen Reed and then watching the stuff with Judge Gold, I absolutely think Judge Gold is worse, but it is what it is. Judge Bev took a lot of heat in pretrial hearings and things that were happening between her and the defense team, and her bias and her relationships with certain people involved in the case, and I shouldn't even say involved in the case, because it wasn't involved in the case. It was her relationships with people that had those people had been involved in cases with the other people from the case. I know it's super confusing, but she took a lot of heat. People didn't like Bev. They wanted her gone. They'd asked for her to leave a couple of times, and she didn't. Well, when we watched the trial, obviously some people still think she was very biased. For me personally, I found her to be very fair. I found her to be quite snippy with both sides, and I found her to be quite helpful with both sides. Very different than she was in pretrial hearings. So I'm hoping, and this is my hope, that that's the potential of what we have in the Delphi case. That's my hope. Now, do I think it's going to happen? It's a slim chance, but I think that's my hope. I know that judges will always act very differently in front of the jury, obviously, because the jury, they want the jury's respect. The jury has to listen to the judge. So I fear, and this is why I think she should be removed, but this is, once again, my opinion, my channel. It's just I'm just a person on YouTube. I think she should be removed because I fear any type of commentary or her bias slipping through when the jury's sitting in the room. And then because the jury is ultimately to respect the court, that they're going to feel it or see it or hear it. And that makes me nervous. But I'm going to keep my hope, keeping hope alive. Now, this in particular, they cannot go and file to have like an original action on this. They can use other situations to file and have an original action taken. Do I think that's the route they're going to go? I think we're going to have the hearings this next week. This is my opinion. So you guys take this, leave it, do whatever. You can throw it in the trash, do whatever the hell you want with it. I think that we're going to have the hearings next week. They're going to see how she is, what she does, how she rules. And then I think if there seems to be bias and she can't let that go, then I think we'll see some more. We'll see some more based on the findings and the orders from that. That's where I'm at with it. I don't think if everything goes evenly, like, you know, they don't feel that way, or her rulings are very fair and legally, you know, legally based, I don't think we'll see anything, and I think we'll see Judge Gull at trial. That's where I'm at with it. At this point, I do think we're going to see Judge Gull at trial. So I guess that's why I'm like putting out there. My hope is that there's that switch in the switch on her when the jury's there, that she's like, I know myself and I can. And she says it, they asked her to recuse and she's like, nope, I can do it whether I like you guys or not. Then she believes that she can sit in that courtroom with the jury listening to evidence and that she can rule and be fair between both sides. And I fucking hope she's right. Because if she isn't, it's bad for everybody involved. No matter what the outcome the jury comes to, because then we'll be, like I've always said, we'll be years into appeals, and the families, no matter how much you think that they are going to have peace after this trial, they never will. Because you can appeal it, everybody gets to appeal it, but to have an actual reason, to give reasons for the appeal to actually go through, that would be very dumb on her part. But it is what it is. I've made it clear since I felt this way. I do not know Judge Gull. I do not know her personally. She might be a very nice lady. She might be a great mother, a great grandmother. My opinions are based on how I feel about her rulings on this case and her interactions with the attorneys on this case. So just always know it's very specific to this. I don't know this woman. It is what it is. But if I have an opinion, it's based on this. Hi, Sleuthy Goosey. Hi, Joanna. You're back. I laugh at the thought of that image every time. What did Michelle say? I only like the Indiana podcasters when they went on Law and Crime, both in the tiniest chair. The one chair, the single chair, the individual chair. Did Laura ever answer, by the way, somebody in chat? Because I would like to make sure I am able to address it. I don't want any confusion. But I don't see it, so maybe it didn't. Hey, Jay. There's literally zero chance she's going to be fair. No fucking way. Stop trying to not keep my hope alive, Jay. I can't believe that Nick's prepared for next week. He has to be terrified of what's going to happen. Baldwin and Rosie are going to have him for brunch. I think the witnesses, if it goes the way that we thought that it was going to go when these hearings were supposed to happen before, if those witnesses are there again to take the stand, I just think it's going to have so much info. I think we'll get so much info that we wouldn't have even gotten, but we won't get at trial because some of those people aren't going to be allowed in front of a jury. So I just think it could be very, very interesting. Either way, it will be informative to the public on both sides, I believe. So I wish I was there next week to sit in the hearing. I really wish I'd booked to go next week. But I didn't. So it is what it is. Yeah. Lana says, I guarantee you Gull is fun at parties. Gull has declared her bias from the bench on TV, then memorialized it in an order. I know. I know. I don't get it. But here we are. Here we are. Okay, let's see. All right, next. So, because it's been a little while, I mean, we're at the end of July. The fourth Franks was actually filed at the end of April. Hey, Shannon's Copper. Let me see. T, is there a plan for how the heck we will find out what happens at these hearings? We need a game plan. LOL, someone assigned to writing each person's quotes or something. So I am looking, I know a couple people that I know are going to be at the hearing. Those couple of people are very pro-prosecution so far. I am waiting to see who else I know is going to be there. Either way, I will tell you that my plan is going to be to request the transcripts of the hearings. Now, that being said, if the attorneys request the transcripts, isn't Bob going? Is Bob going? I don't know, Kraken. That's one of the ones I was waiting to find out. I mean, I would assume he would be, but you never know. That guy's vacation schedule is all over the place. I think Lana is going, and she did great with notes last time. Okay, I'll ask her if she's going to go. She did a great job with notes. What was I saying, though? I got sidetracked, and now I lost what I was saying. No, it's okay, Jay. I was just giving you a hard time. Oh, transcripts. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Thank you, Joanna. So that being said, I will request the transcripts. If an attorney requests the transcripts first, then the pages for transcripts are $1 each. If they don't, if the attorneys on either side don't request the transcripts, then I think the pages are like $5.75 or something like that, like $5 and some change. So I'm hoping that an attorney requests the damn transcripts because it makes it much cheaper for me to get them. Should we start a collection now for transcripts? I do have, okay, so the last time we requested, you guys had come in once and given some funding afterwards. So I put that in a separate little side account that I have. So I have about I think it's about $150 towards the new transcripts already from the last batch that you guys had sent so much for. But it would not be a bad idea. I mean, if you guys, and that's not a requirement ever. But I mean, yeah, if anybody ever wants to help with that, you know, by all means, I'll take all the help I can get. And I'll be very honest with you, especially if the attorneys don't request them. And then I got $6 for the transcripts, and I will read them if needed. Thank you, DB. It will be needed. But I definitely will need help if the attorneys don't request them. I'll just put that out there. But like I said, you guys don't ever feel obligated. It's just always appreciated. Suthi says, when I told Bob how much Jody was charging, he told me to reply and ask her why she was extorting me. Yeah. So was it, what was it, 5 or 6? It was like 5 or 575 or something like that, Sleuthie, because you guys requested them before the attorneys, or you requested the hearing that the attorneys didn't request, I don't think. So yours was way more expensive, but I think it was like $5, $6 about. What about Dizzy's Discord for transcripts? I can definitely, I mean, I have the ones that we put them in a Google Drive and we put them all over Twitter and stuff. So once we get them, they're very public and anybody can have them and anybody can use them. I will. So we won't know if obviously until after the hearings if the attorneys request them. But I still want to go over the notes, you know, very, very immediately, as close as we can. So I don't know if we're going to end up going back to the way that Sleuthie and I did it before. Anybody who's in there, it was 575. I don't know why that number stuck in my head. See, why do I remember random stupid shit like that? But we may have to resort back to like watching people who were in there, getting all of their feedback and then kind of compiling it to go over it, unless somebody that is willing to just come up on the channel. So if anybody here plans on going and you guys want to come up on the channel just to tell us each day what happens, just let me know and I would happily do that. I'm all for it. No, I mean, she will have them for you to use. She gets them almost immediately. We can buy the Discord a coffee. She gets the transcripts from the hearings, from the Delphi hearings. Why did I not know that? I feel like the defense needs to request everything in writing too. Right. So all you people on social media that are besties with the defense team, I can't even say it straight. Make sure you tell them to request the filings. So that way, when they do request the filings, it'll be because Teresa asked the people who are connected to the defense team to do it for her. Because that's what would happen. That's how it goes. Tammy, because I'm a nosy bitch and I want the transcripts. Hell yeah, me too. I started a war. I know. Look at this sleepy face. Thank you, Tammy. I really appreciate it. Okay, so like I was saying, I said to try to scare my cat out of hiding under the couch because it's too damn hot in Denver. It's so hot here too. So hot here too. Shibby. Oh shit, that's funny. But it's been a while, so I thought, okay, well, let's pull up the fourth Frank's motion in its an original form, and just kind of touch on certain aspects of it because it does. It gets. Oh, Rochelle, thank you. I want the transcripts too. Sweet. Because we're a bunch of nosy biatches. But I want to have them like in reality. I want to see what happens like verbatim and not have to count on anything else. But obviously, I want the information quickly, so I want to count on something else up front. But anyway, so this is the original Frank's 4 that was filed back at the end of April of 2024. So I thought we'd touch on that really quick, and then we're going to touch on the state's response because it's also a little bit old now. It's back from May 17th. And holy crap, can we remember all the dang, filings? And then we have the defense's response to the state's response. The response to the response from the respondents. Make sense? That's funny. I know. So we need. So that's what we should call it. We should have like a nosy biatches fund. And you men can contribute too, though, because you're nosy biatches as well. Hi, Lynn. Okay, so all right, so let's go back over here. So here's your initial, then your response, the state's response, and then the response's response. Hold 1 second, my husband needs me. He's like, are you going to be helping with dinner or no? I'm like, no. He's like, all right, fine. Oh, Professor Kate, sweet. Ashley Schaefer, what's up? Thank you for coming by. So Ashley Schaefer, I have decided that I'm going to have you come up on panel sometime just so Frosty can get like super jealous. That you come up here and you don't go up on his. Chelsea, thank you guys. Thank you. I will when all this comes through, I'll stick it in the little transcript fund. Dinner? Nah. I said nah, I'm not helping. He's off. Ashley Schaefer says, good luck. I just want to make Frosty a little jealous. Okay, so the general background, we already know most of this. They're trying to essentially get the search warrant application for the residents of Richard Allen's house thrown out based on the fact that they believe that Tony Liggett lied to Judge Diener. That's what the entirety of all the Frank stuff really comes down to anyway. They keep adding to the supplemental reports, which is what they talked about when they asked for the lazy judge to be removed, is saying like even though they're for the same topic, they're technically new ones because it has new information. So even though it's an add-on, it's new. The information is new. Hey Tom, Goal is in fact a fair but firm judge. Seeing her do this is very strange. So Tom, do you think this will help me? Do you think that come trial then we'll actually see Judge Goal be really fair? I mean, it's a hard statement to wrap my mind around. I think everybody did say that, and when I was looking up stuff on her when they assigned her to the case, because we all knew Diener was going to go, I was like, I was all for it. This is the weirdest shit about this case for me, is because I really did. When the PCA came out, I was like, finally, they fucking got him. And then I was like, well, Diener can't do this because he's Diener. And then I was like, okay, they brought in the special judge. I looked up Judge Goal. I was like, this looks good. Like, I'm good. Hi, the real dragon. I hope Delphi Dummies is watching. You stop trying to get me in the clip videos. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. So, general background, we pretty much know all that. That's exactly what this is. All the Franks are on for the intent to get the search warrant thrown out of Richard Allen's house because the defense believes that Liggett lied. And if Liggett lied, then, or if Liggett had told the truth and said this additional information, or told Diener this additional information, then Diener would have never signed the search warrant, the probable cause for search. So this one in particular is about. I'll get down to it. That's the third. So they're incorporating 1, 2, and 3. So the third one, which was March 13th, they filed the third one based on evidence recently provided by the prosecution that detailed the following information omitted from the search warrant: that 3 persons were in or around the crime scene at the time the murders allegedly taking place, and none of the owners of the phones had any connection to Richard Allen. So that was Frank's 3. That Jeffrey Turco, Professor Turco, wrote in a report provided to Unified Command that the markings referring to the configuration of the branches on the girls' bodies constitute an inscription inspired by Norse runes. Okay? So that's where we're at with 1, 2, 3. Now, additional facts, this is what 4 is going to be. On April 26, 2024, the prosecution provided numerous documents to Mr. Allen's counsel as a result of the motion to compel and motion for sanctions filed April 23, 2024. Contained in the documents provided by the prosecution are pages 2 and 3 of an incident report authored by Steve Mullen, who was the Delphi chief of police at the time. These 2 pages indicate that Steve Mullen contacted Mitch Blocher of the Indiana State Police on February 13th to assist in acquiring precise location information for a cell phone using some of their more technical assets. It appears that the last communication with Sergeant Blocher was prior to 1 a.m. on February 14th. The 2 pages provided by Mr. Allen's counsel contain the following summary of the conversation between Steve Mullen and Blocher. Blocher advised, according to his evaluation of the data provided by AT&T, the last contact event between the cell phone and the tower was at 5:44. He advised that according to the records provided by AT&T, there had been no contact with the phone since then. Blocher advised that his interpretation of the information which they were receiving from AT&T indicated that the cell phone was no longer in the area or no longer in working condition. He advised that since there had been no change in the every 15 minutes update they were receiving, the last known contact time had not changed since 5:44 p.m. So the conversation above appears to have happened on February 14th around 1 a.m. Remember, if we go back in time when all this was actually happening, we have the gentleman in front of the fire department come out, and he's talking about that Tobe had called him and said they had gotten the last ping, and he wanted to go out and search. So then people were like, ooh, see, the last ping is like 2 a.m. But then it came out and was clarified that no, the last ping wasn't at 2 a.m. The last ping was actually at 5:44, but they got the information closer to 2 a.m., which this conversation happening at 1 a.m. makes sense. On November 9th, 2023, the prosecution provided Mr. Allen's counsel with evidence of 44 pings generated by AT&T to locate LG's phone. There were 2 pings from the 13th in the pings provided to the defense counsel, one at 5:48 and 7:16. Mr. Allen's counsel did not learn of additional pings which took place every 15 minutes on February 13th until the discovery disclosure on April 26th. Defense counsel still does not have the additional pings from February 13th or the early morning of February 14th, pursuant to the information which the prosecution disclosed to Mr. Allen's counsel. The first ping on February 14th now, remember, is at 5:39 a.m. 5:39 a.m. So more importantly, Blocher's statement that his interpretation of the information which they were receiving from AT&T indicated that the cell phone was no longer in the area or no longer in working condition. The prosecution's entire case rests on the idea that Libby and Abby were on or very near the south side of the Monon High Bridge at 2:13 p.m. and that Richard Allen killed them between that time and when a witness allegedly saw a man in blue jeans and a blue jacket on 300 North at 3:57. In other words, assuming the prosecution's evidence is accurate, LG and AW were murdered after 2:13 and before 3:57. Okay? So additionally, assuming the timeline is accurate, the prosecution would have the girls between the Monon High Bridge and the location where the bodies were found at 2:13 p.m. Until they were found at approximately 12:15 p.m. on February 14th. At the time the bodies were found, Libby's phone was under Libby's shoe, both of which were under Abby. Assuming the prosecution's timeline is accurate, Libby's phone was under Libby's shoe, which was under Abby, from sometime after 2:13 p.m. until the bodies were found at approximately 12:15 on February 14th. However, Blocher stated on February 13th that the cell phone was no longer in the area or no longer in working condition. There's no way Libby's cell phone could have been out of the area between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. if the prosecution's timeline is accurate because the phone was at the location where the bodies were found that entire time. Assuming the prosecution's timeline is accurate, there's no way that the phone was not in working condition between 9 a.m. and 1 a.m. on February 14th, because we know the phone was on and communicating with the cell tower at 4:33 a.m. on February 14th. For the prosecution's timeline to work, the phone had to have been in the same condition from sometime prior to 3:57 p.m. when the witness saw him until the time the bodies were found on February 14th, saying it has to have worked. At the time of the search warrant for Mr. Allen's residence, members of the Indiana State Police were also aware of the last ping. The last phone ping on Libby's phone was not at 5:44 p.m. It was actually at 4:33 a.m. on February 14th. So essentially, they're telling the defense, hey, the last ping's at 5:44, and this conversation's happening at 1 a.m. Anything that happened after that, they're not supposedly not giving over. Okay. So that's what we have from the original Frank's 4. Now, the state responds and says, let me find the heart of it. Okay, defense motion in paragraph 25 contains a list, A through I, of information that the defense asserts should not have been omitted from probable cause affidavit for search warrant. However, the information is either irrelevant for probable cause purposes or wholly inaccurate. The state has addressed most of these inaccurate facts in previous replies to the Franks motions. The new topic that the defense focuses on in the fourth Franks motion is the AT&T pings. The defense includes in this motion information about pings generated by AT&T. The defense also includes statements made by Sergeant Blocher when he was consulted by Steve Mullins about the pings. The information in the motion show that the defense does not understand the information contained in the pings and then exasperates the problems by mischaracterizing the statements by Sergeant Blocher. Further, contrary to what the defense motion states, the defense have known about the pings well before April 26th. So I think we're all on the same page that it's all about these AT&T pings. They're saying, hey, prosecutor knew about this. They know that something was up with Libby's phone. They did not disclose that during their application for the search warrant. Therefore, they're lying, and then Judge Diener would not have signed it had he known all of the facts from Franks 1 through 4. And then the state comes back and says, no, that's not true. You don't know what you're talking about, or you're not understanding what you're talking about. So I'm not going to read through the whole thing because I just wanted you guys to have the basis of what the hell we're even talking about, because sometimes it's hard to kind of follow along. Anybody who reads through motions, you guys know it's constantly it's a back and forth. So you have to go from the beginning, and then everything is a response to this, and then it's a response to the response to the response to the response of that, so on and so forth. So there's a back and forth that happens. So now we have the response to the state. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm going to grab a water. I'll be right back. Yeah, water, not Dr. Pepper. I just finished the Dr. Pepper, but it's so hot I trade off because otherwise I'll get very dehydrated. It doesn't show any lies, but it doesn't show a straight lie, but what they're implying is a lie by omission. That there is other evidence that had Diener known this other evidence existed, then he may have been like, hey, why are we searching this Richard Allen dude's house when we have this other information that shows to go somewhere else? That's consistently the theme in all the Franks. It's like because Diener didn't know about all this other info, he believed that they should and could search Richard Allen's house. So Liggett just wanted to win the election. He didn't know what can of worms he was opening. See, I think my personal opinion is that I think Liggett was going to win the election anyway. Because it's all about the money, the supporters of it. The supporters of him are the same supporters of Nick, the same supporters of Shane Evans. And now look who's the new judge. That's Shane Evans, who's literally been out of law school for 5 minutes, and now he's taken over as judge. Okay, so now here we go. So comes now Richard Allen, and if they reference anything without actually going into it, then I'll just pull up the other document so we can just go back. We'll keep going that way. So comes now Richard Allen by counsel and files his replies to the state's response to the defense's fourth motion for Frank's hearing. In support of said reply, the defense states the following. On April 29th, the accused Richard Allen filed a new request for a Frank's hearing based upon new evidence. Said request was the fourth Frank's notice filed by the defense. In said request, the defense detailed new discovered evidence hereafter called the Blotcher report that suggested the phone that was found at the scene where the victims of the murders were ultimately found on February 14th, 2017, had actually been taken out of the area on February 13th, before being brought back to the area at some point in time on February 14th. They're saying that the phone had to be in working condition because otherwise it wouldn't have pinged at the 4:33 time frame. The prosecution turned over the Blotcher report approximately 14 months after the state was required to turn over the evidence, and this newly discovered evidence shows that on February 13th, one of the victims' phones were outside the area of where the bodies were ultimately found. Judge Diener had a right to know this information before issuing a search warrant, as said evidence completely throws off the state's timeline of events, therefore exonerating Richard Allen. Okay, hold on. Hey, there's Laura. Thank you. Okay, I was waiting for your reply. Hey, Teresa, my comment was in reference to your mention of a certain podcast. I think it's probably better to be open and direct, but that's the only, in my opinion. Perhaps I'm misunderstood. Sorry. No, you're absolutely fine. It's absolutely about the Murder Sheet podcast. There's no hiding that. I just kind of thought that it was known. It's absolutely about the Murder Sheet podcast. There's no doubt, no questions. No question, no problem saying that and naming them as who they are. So, or any of the nicknames that anybody in chat has given them at some point or another. But that's, yeah, I have no problem saying it, Laura. So we're gonna get into it too. So I think that it will end up being very self-explanatory then. Did Shane Evans ever withdraw his appearance on the case? Because I can't find that filing. That's funny. It would have been historical pings only if the phone was broken, dead, etc. at 5:44 p.m., right? So I am not a phone expert, so I don't want to pretend to be one, even though I play one on TV sometimes. The issue comes to at 1 a.m., well, there's a couple problems here. So at 1 a.m., Blotcher's having this conversation with Mullins, and they're talking about the last phone ping. And so the other phone ping that ends up being brought up is outside of this conversation between Mullins and Blotcher. So that whole conversation isn't necessarily necessary. But what the defense is saying is that there was this whole other set of pings that happened, and nobody ever told us that they even happened. Nick's response says, "You did know. It's in your paperwork. Go find it in all the paperwork we sent you, all the discovery we sent you." But the information about this 433 ping, and most importantly from Blotcher, is that the phone was either no longer in the area, so it couldn't be found there from AT&T, or the phone was no longer in working condition. But if the phone is not in working condition, then how did they get it at 433 off of a cell tower? That's the question. How do we say that it's not in working condition after, I think it was 1 something in the morning, but then by 433 it is in working condition and is now pinging off the cell tower? So it's like did something happen to the phone? Like somebody had suggested that the phone maybe had gotten wet, but not wet enough to actually wreck it, but wet enough that it shut down and then re-signaled to the tower again at 4:33 in the morning. I don't know if that's possible. Now, you also have to take into consideration here, even if the phone leaves, tracking of a phone does not mean you are tracking the actual person. We talk about this with Koberger so much now because of the whole phone situation. You're tracking a phone. So you're not tracking the person. Now, you can have a reasonable inference that a phone is with a person, unless proven otherwise, but you're not tracking a person. So even if the phone is to leave the area and come back, does not mean the girls left the area. It doesn't mean that they didn't. It just doesn't mean that they did. The prosecutor is trying to conflate and confuse the pings with GPS. Let me see. Remove the SIM card and the ping stops, but that doesn't shut off the GPS transmitter. See, this is where I would look to people who know a lot more about that than I do and ask them to explain the stuff on the phone situation. Because like I said, I am no phone expert. Hey, oh, am I bothering you? Owls had the phone. Oh, shit. Got more owls. Owls had the phone. They were turning it on and off and flying around. Doesn't just say it was pinged, it says it was accessed. Let me go back to it. It was but because we know the phone was on and communicating with the cell tower at 4:33. Obviously, it was the owls. At this point, we can all just blame it on the owls again. It's the owl pig from Karen Reed. That thing just flies all over the place. Do owls eat wheat? It's okay. It's okay, post-punk mama. We're all right there with you. Okay, I'm gonna go back over here. Where was I at? Did I already read that? The prosecution turned over the Blotcher report approximately 14 months. I did read that. Judge Diener had a right to know this information, that the timeline is thrown off. Therefore, if all of this was happening and that you take out all the witness statements that had anything to do with seeing this person, then it wouldn't be towards Richard Allen, right? And then the search warrant wouldn't get signed for Richard Allen's house to be searched. This is important because law enforcement have maintained from the beginning of the case that the girls were murdered on February 13th and remained in the place they were found from the following day, never leaving the area where they were ultimately found. This new evidence, therefore, would show that the phone and the victims were taken outside of the area where they were ultimately found, but then brought back to the area at a later time. I disagree. It would show, if true, it would show that the phone was taken, not necessarily the victims. And I'll tell you, transporting a phone and bringing it back would be much easier than transporting the girls and a phone. In his response to the fourth Frank's request, the prosecution makes several assertions that simply aren't accurate or true. They just fight back. They just call each other liars all the time. It's fucking crazy. Teresa, did they ever take fingerprints from the phone? Well, we know that there was fingerprints and DNA. We don't know where they found the DNA, and we don't know where they found the fingerprints. So is there a fingerprint from the phone? No idea. Is there where the DNA is? No idea. We just know that they have admitted that they have DNA and fingerprints. I have a short on my channel with all the clips where law enforcement says those two things. Hey, Aaron, I must have looked too deeply into mythologies and symbolism since I am unable to tell whether or not the owl talk is all innocent jokes. I know one bird is really nasty, though. And it comes, I say like they call each other liars all the time. I do believe right now in the public domain, this comes to who you believe. Who do you believe? Do you believe Nick McClelland and the prosecution team in their filings? Or do you believe the defense team in their filings? So it's always a very interesting thing listening to people who are very, they're on a side, because it does come to where they're like, yeah, but like that's from the defense filing, so we know it's bullshit. Or that's from the prosecution's filing, so we know it's bullshit. And don't get me wrong, I do that because I am of the opinion that I do not trust Nick McClelland and the prosecution team. So that makes me, I guess, more pro-defense, but yet I'm waiting still for evidence. So it's a very confusing situation. No wonder people can't really wrap their minds around what the fuck I'm talking about or thinking about this case, because I can't. Like one day I'm like, no, he totally fucking did it. And the next day I'm like, nope, he didn't do it. So it was a nice break through Karen Reed to have to worry about whether she did it or not, and not whether Richard Allen was the right guy. But it comes down to who do you trust? And I'm telling you right now, they're not telling you all the information on either side in any of these filings. The filings are so one-sided. Look, they're like, you're lying. No, you're lying. No, you're lying. So maybe we got to go with Judge Gold again and go like, we got to read between the lines here. I'm waiting for more evidence. And I said this on somebody else's live, but when I was covering this pretty much every day, I got quite a few emails from people who were like, I will prove to you that he's guilty. And I'm like, you don't have more information than I do, so I don't know how anybody could prove that to me. Like, the information out there doesn't prove it to me. I need more information. Okay, R&M, that's a great question. I heard this whole thing earlier today about how phone pings are extremely inaccurate. I was like, they actually brought me back to Karen Reed too, when they're like, Celebrate, it's completely inaccurate. I'm like, do you know how many fucking people are convicted based on cell phone pings and Celebrate reports? Like, if we start fighting against them now and saying, no, none of this shit is accurate, so it doesn't matter. We talked about this when Nick McClellan was like, the geofencing is dumb, it doesn't even matter. And it's like, well, it does matter, because you can't turn around and try to convict somebody on geofencing phone pings and that be your evidence, and then turn around and say, well, in this case, it's not important. Because now all those attorneys are like, wait, what? He said what? He said that's not important? So phone pings are inaccurate. GPS is extremely accurate. I think that's going to, the semantics, and you guys know I love the differencing in the terminology. I think that's going to play a big role in why one's saying to the other. Laura, I think you're behind, honey. It's okay, though. You'll hear this when you catch up. I answered you. If pings equal GPS and pings are inaccurate, fucking pop up, stupid thing. People would be driving off the road. Well, that would, yeah. I think all the cell phones are important. I think his cell phone's important too. I think the pings are more about human accessing the phones rather than an accurate location. And maybe this is like something that needs to be broken down, is the difference between what constitutes like the phone ping, or like DB said, what constitutes them trying to ping the phone versus the phone trying to go, to get access to a tower. Like, how do all those things play into one another? And are we simplifying the terminology by just calling them all pings? Do you see what I'm saying? Oh, that's where I'm at too. Like, I want his alibi. I want his alibi, and I want them to prove that he wasn't there from 12 to 1:30, like he says. Like, there's got to be a give or a take there on something with the timeline that's gonna say it can't. If we go into this and it's just a he said, like he says he was here then, and then you say he says he was there then. Like, I'm gonna struggle with that. Okay, let's go back over here. The prosecutor, his response to the forthright says the prosecution's several assertions that simply aren't accurate or true. Prosecutor is not a digital forensic expert, and his assertions should not be accepted as true or accurate by this court until he presents evidence and or testimony that supports his assertions. Similar, the defense attorneys are not digital forensics experts as well, and therefore the defense would also request this court to not accept their assertions as fact. Well, that's kind of nice. Like, they're like, none of us are the experts here. We need to talk to somebody who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about. And that's kind of where I'm at. I need to talk to somebody who knows what the fuck they're talking about. Okay, yo. They took like 20 phones out of Alan's house. He didn't throw old phones away, so they must have his phone from back then. I would think so. Rather, on such an important issue as to whether law enforcement failed to inform Judge Diener concerning evidence related to the timeline that would have indicated to Judge Diener that Richard Allen did not commit these murders, the defense would request this court to set a Franks hearing to hear both sides before making any determinations. I agree with this. I agree that if they were actually able to have a hearing on all of the things that they have encompassed in Franks 1 through 4, they would put witnesses forth, and then we would actually understand more of this type of information. So this is number 10 right here is exactly what I think. Now, do I believe so far that there are enough like there's been proven enough that Liggett lied and the search warrant would be thrown out, should be thrown out? No. Do I think that Liggett omitted a bunch of stuff? Yes. Is it not all of it is pertinent to getting a search warrant? So this is kind of where semantics come into play. There is not everything that the defense has brought up needs to be in a search warrant. So would it be enough to get it thrown out? No. Then the other side of that is, if you take out the inaccurate statements from the search warrant, would Judge Diener have still signed the warrant? And my opinion is yes. And my opinion isn't yes because he would have signed the warrant because it was such a great warrant. My opinion is yes because he's Judge Diener. That's where I'm at with that. So I don't think that ultimately in the end the search warrant would be thrown out, but I do think that having the information to make that determination in court would be beneficial to both sides before trial. Okay, let's see. Simply stated, through the pleadings filed by both sides, two competing narratives have formed. One, the state of Indiana disagrees with the defense's interpretation of the digital forensic evidence and the Blocher report, while two, the defense disagrees with the state of Indiana and its interpretation of the digital evidence in the Blocher report. Well, that's not uncommon. Their experts are going to completely disagree. And they both have experts that they're talking to. Holman testified there was no evidence extracted from RA's phone connecting him to the crime or to the victims. He sure did. He sure did. But I want, for me personally, I want location data. Because I think that knowing there should be a way to prove where Richard Allen was at some point in the day during the hours of 12 to 5. That would show one side as being more honest than the other. Let me see. All right, let me see where we were. The hearing would allow the court to listen to the evidence and draw its own conclusions from that evidence rather than believing one side or the other on these issues of pings in the Blocher report, as this court has little or no context concerning the facts to make any decisions, nor presumably the expertise to make. They put in here presumably, like maybe she is a forensic phone expert and we don't know it, but we don't think she is, because she'll get pissed if you just say, how do you know I'm not an expert, to make such a decision based solely upon pleadings filed by each side. Wherefore, the defense requests that this court to simply not accept the prosecution nor the defense's assertions concerning pings, quote unquote, and the impact of Blocher's report, and to set this matter for a hearing where the court can hear direct testimony of state and defense witnesses subject to cross-examination before making any rulings on this important matter. That is perfect to me. That's exactly what I think should happen. Set the hearing. There's zero reason to not have a hearing. It makes no sense to not have the hearing. And then listen to the evidence instead of just presuming that you know what the evidence is and that you do believe one side over the other. Let's hear it. Let's hear it from the people that they present to the court and say, hey, this is what it actually means. Here, let me see what you guys are saying. I think that's exactly what should happen. Plus, then it gets all that testimony then becomes part of the record, which is important to Richard Allen's case. 7 people placed themselves in or at the bridge while the girls were being murdered, according to the state's time of death. Yep. In or around the area, and heard nothing, saw nothing. Some say they saw stuff like, muddy, bloody, blue jacket guy. And then the defense comes out and says, no, that's not what Sarah Carbaugh said. She said that it was tan and muddy. So here's an interesting question. If it comes out and is proven in a hearing like this that Liggett lied, then what should happen with the search warrant? If we listen, if they present this in front of the judge and they play Sarah Carbaugh's interview where she says, he was muddy and tan, and we know that Liggett puts in here, blue and bloody and muddy, what should happen? Dan the man. Betsy Blair is pro-prosecution. Well, that would be tough when her eyewitness has a 20 to 30 something, and she was a 10 out of 10 on the sketch that she provided to law enforcement. So she could still be pro-prosecution, but I mean, the guy she's saying she saw is not the same guy that other people are saying they saw. I've said this from the beginning of covering this case. Putting eyewitnesses on the stand, they're notoriously bad. Eyewitnesses are terrible. So I would be surprised if we see all of the eyewitnesses from the PCA take the stand. It would be detrimental to the prosecution's case. We have got to chat sometime. I want to pick your brain so bad. Betsy Blair. Oh, I already read that one. Let me see. Okay. Dan, don't say stuff like that. Betsy Blair placed a car at CPS while BG was on the bridge. That wasn't Mr. Allen's car. It was a different make, model, color, and decade. Yep. Judge Gold already said it was constitutional. Not on 3 and 4. She hasn't. She said that she has denied Franks 1 and 2, but she's never ruled on 3 and 4. So does every other great idea. Everyone owns knives and guns and jackets. Yep. You think it still comes back to the CSAM? I wonder. Let me go. Oh, here's your rest. The search of the river and the recovered item from the scene has to be proof of others involved. The CSAM arrest connected to KK is still moving along slowly, as well as something might break there. I don't know. Do you think it's connected to this crime though? I struggle with that. I don't know why. I know there's people who are adamant that this crime has to do with CSAM. I don't know why I can't. My brain does not connect the two to being together. Not with the Keegan Klein CSAM anyway. But I mean, there's good theories out there. There's very good theories out there on how it's connected. Southside Bill says there are witnesses who saw him and he saw the witnesses. That's not necessarily true. But that is a very overview of the situation. There are witnesses who saw a man, and then this man also saw women. We do not know that they are the same people. We know that there was multiple people out there that day, and they saw a man, and the witnesses say the man they saw matches the guy from the video of Libby. Now, we don't have proof yet that Richard Allen is the guy in the video of Libby's video. We don't have that proof yet. So we have witnesses who saw a guy, and we have a guy who saw some girls. He saw 3 girls, but yet the witnesses who saw him, there was 4 of them. And everybody says, well, they're not talking about this person because she's a minor. Well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because it was years ago and she was the same age as the girls, and she's much older now, and she was much older at the time of the PCA. Also, they never have an issue questioning a minor. So he says he saw 3 girls. We know that earlier in the day, there was 3 girls there. There's also plenty of people that were there that we don't even know about yet publicly. So I disagree on that. And he still had the clothes he wore on the trails that day. That's more than probable cause to search his residence. See, he still had the clothes that he wore on the trails that day. If that's true, then they should have found some DNA that on his clothes. There's no way with the scene the way that it was that there's not a transfer of DNA. There's Lockard's exchange. Something is always left and something is always taken. That's exactly how every crime is. Look at any crime and you see something is left and something is taken. You have to have both. And that's a forensic evidence. So you have the unspent round that you're going to say is left. That's fine. So now what was taken? There has to be something forensically that matches him to that scene. You have to have both. That's the Lockhardt's principle. So, I mean, take it for what you want. I want the Orion hard drive. Yeah, good luck with that one, all eyes. All right, let me scroll back down here so I can just see before we go. Well, see, this is an interesting one for me because I have a whole other set on. I do not believe. I am not. I shouldn't say I don't believe. I am not sold on the fact that Keegan ever talked to Libby. We know that there were people close to Libby who had created accounts of Libby and were interacting with people online. Yeah, it's like, what are the odds that you come across a pedophile and a murderer in the same weekend? Well, in Delphi, in the surrounding areas of Delphi, it seems that the CSAM ring was pretty damn big, so I think that probably ups their chances. And yeah, they all went there and nobody recognized him. Nobody ever said, oh my gosh, that is the guy. If there's a troll, then just block him. Oh no, I'm so late. Angel Ray, you are so late. We're already two hours in. 2 hours in. Yeah, and how many of those POIs that came up, Judge Jessica, were actually convicted or registered sex offenders? Hi, Johnny. Hi, with all. People had made a fake account of Libby, according to people in her life, that there was a fake account of Libby that was interacting with people online. Okay. So what do we got next? What do we got next? Oh, I didn't do this one. Let's go to this one next. So the defense filed to have essentially have like little mini opening statements. Somebody actually sent me the list. I don't know if I won't say who publicly, but maybe we can look through that. Because I asked the same question like many months ago, and then so somebody emailed it to me of like, here's the people that were arrested that in connection with this stuff. Because I thought the same thing. I was like, why isn't that like hugely publicized in Indiana? But I'm like, maybe they don't want people to know that there's so many fucking creepers. Mainstream media doesn't want to tell anybody. So the defense filed a motion to have these little mini opening statements during the voir dire process, or voir dire, depending on where you're from and how you say it. So Indiana Jury Rule 14b provides to facilitate the jury's panel's understanding of the case with the court's consent, the parties may present brief statements of facts and issues, mini opening statements to be determined by the jury. The defendant asserts that their right to a fair and impartial jury is constitutionally guaranteed, will be enhanced by this procedure because a more meaningful exchange of information will take place during the voir dire if the parties are allowed to preview the main issues to be consented at trial. The defendant believes that those issues can be effectively summarized by each party pursuant to Jury Rule 14b in 3 minutes or less. So the defendant, by counsel, respectfully requests the court to permit a little mini opening statement by each party. So for them and for the prosecutor. Like, you know, in 3 minutes, you're going to hear about this type of case. This is the essentials of what happened. And then the defense comes up and says in their little 3 minutes, hey, this is the type of things you're going to hear as a from the defense side. And then what it does is empowers the attorneys on both sides to ask more focused questions during the voir dire. I've seen this happen in many, many cases, so I wasn't surprised by this request. I thought it was a very good one because the defense and prosecution theories are so far apart. In a third-party defense or another, another person did this versus the typical defense of most clients, of most defendants, is to be like, there's not enough evidence, the prosecution didn't prove their case, so therefore my person is innocent, right? But sometimes it's more of a huge difference between the two sides. So this empowers them to kind of get a little bit out and then focus the questions for the jury to narrow it down to see who the potential jurors, what they think and if they should remain seated. Hey, Auntie Bev. I made the mistake of looking up RSOs in Delphi and surrounding towns. Ooh, boy. Convinced my friend's daughter to change her mind about going to college in Indiana. Indiana, it's tough. I mean, they're bad everywhere. I think people it's one of those out of sight, out of mind. But if you ever go on the websites where you can actually look in your own, you just pull up your address and it tells you like all the sex offenders in your area, that's fucking shit scary as a parent. Hi, Helen. What I don't understand is that there would have been a lot of peoples on the trail that day. What made them video this one guy on the bridge? I think they knew him and that they were in trouble. There is no evidence that the girls knew RA. It's true. See, so Rochelle, there is, and I have looked for this interview many, many times. I've never had anybody find it and send it to me, but there is an interview by Libby's grandma, Becky Patty, where she says, and there's people who remember this and have come in here, so I don't know if it's a Mandela effect thing because I've never actually been able to find it again, where she says that that Libby did not have her phone. Her phone had been factory reset, and that she had given Libby one of her work phones to take with her that day. Now, Mandela effect or not, I don't know. Cannot find it to prove it. Was one of the things I looked for the Prezi. Could not find it. That one and the whole, Becky Patty saying they have our girls. Okay, so super simple, and she comes back and actually orders that they can have it. And she says, defendants motion for leave to present a mini opening statement to the jury panel prior to voir dire reviewed and granted without a hearing. Counsel may present a 5-minute mini opening to the jury panel prior to each round of voir dire being conducted in Allen Superior Court, commencing on October 15th. So super easy. She gave him exactly that, which is, I mean, like I said, it's good for both sides. So I'm not surprised that she granted it. It's good for both sides, and it'll also help get them picking a jury faster. So, hey, Criminal Network, what's that? Let's see. Also, there are claims from the families that neither girl had phones. I was always told by people close to other people, back when I covered the case earlier, before this channel, I was always told that Abby had a phone. Now, there's never been any proof, never seen any proof that she did. I was always told that she did. Now, is that being inflated with the fact that people know she had messaged her friends and that there were messages between her and Libby from social media accounts? So they assume that she had a phone, but it wasn't actually a phone. It was this iPad that she borrowed from Libby from time to time to have these communications. Don't know. So maybe there was like an assumption that it was a phone. People just categorized it as a phone, but it wasn't. on the geofence map was labeled geofence victim, but didn't belong to victims. Right. Well, we also, I agree with you, Miku's headphones. So she says, there's more recent claims. Who knows? I think the theory of meeting up with boys without telling parents is possible. I know what I did at their age. Yes, and we've heard from Max Schnoberger, who was Libby's, one of Libby's close friends, that they had invited him to the bridge the night before. So like the whole, like they couldn't have been meeting with somebody because it was so last minute. It's always bothered me because he says that they had asked him to go, and he is still to this day, even on the last CW documentary, he states like that he regrets that he did not go with them. We also heard that Abby had wanted Logan Holder to go with her, and that his friend and their friend Brayden, why can't I think of his name? Brayden Sandifer, the youngest one, the one that was friends with the girls, was also asked to go, and Logan was not able to go. So I mean, they definitely had plans on trying to meet up with people. Then the three girls that we know were there earlier in the day talked about that they were right there and that they were friends with them, and they're like, oh yeah, but they didn't come till later, so we didn't get to see them. So was that a planned thing? Were they trying, because we know they were trying to get there all day? Anna said that Abby had gotten a tablet for Christmas in 2016. She'd only had it for a couple months. Southside Bill says, I think something incriminating was found in the search because Alan subsequently confessed to more than 30 people. I think that's taken out of context, but I don't want to downplay it because I think that if there even is any of these confessions, they could be important, but I do not believe it has to do with 30 people. The commentary from the motion from the prosecution when it came to that is that the confessions were to like these companion prisoners, and I'd have to go back and reread it to say it verbatim, but like an ISP, and so they add in like all the guards and so on as a list of people that they quote unquote plan on calling about these confessions. But we could be talking about 2 confessions, which would still be very important. So that's why I'm like, I don't want to downplay that because it could still be very important, but it's not necessarily 30 people, because if you have these companion prisoners, they have to report to somebody. They tell whoever that is. Now that person is now a witness too. Now that person has to report to whomever they report to, and so on and so forth. So you have 30 people with knowledge of this situation, not 30 people that he would have spoken to. I cannot, for the life of me, figure out how he, being in solitary the majority of the time, would have been able to speak to 30 people. So for me, it's the prisoner companion confessions. I'm curious about them. I don't know if they'll hold a lot of weight because some jurors don't care for prisoner bullshit. They don't care if the prisoner is free now or changed their life around. Some do. Some find that very important. Now, he supposedly wrote something to the warden. I'm curious about that. He supposedly has the confessions to his wife via the tablet with his mom there. So I want to know about those. But if it comes out that this is generic, as has pretty much been said by almost everybody involved with like the mom and the sister ones, like it's a generic confession, like it's my fault this happened, I'm going to struggle with that. I don't, but I'm not the juror. I'm not on the jury. None of us are on the jury. So ultimately our opinions are really just, they're really just that. They're just our opinions. The first people he confessed to were ISP officers. See, I disagree with that. Why do you think that, Southside Bill? Please tell me, because I may have to agree with you if you can back that up, but I don't think so. Anna and Becky both filed requests for the girls' data. Abby's was only for an email address. Yep. Which is just crazy in general. Let me see. They report to the state. Yeah. So I think that we're looking at a like a hierarchy of where these confessions went. Even if it's not generic, did he say those things during psychosis? Did he read details in discovery? I don't know. There's so much that can go along with it, but I'm not going to, like I said, I don't want to give them, I'm not going to say that they're not important or give them no weight, because they very well could be. If it, you know, if he's in there and he's telling, if he's confessing to his wife, or, you know, writing letters to the warden, or even to the, you know, Dr. Walla, which I think we're going to, I think that's because she's going to have a tough time having credibility, in my opinion. I don't even know if they're going to have her come and testify, but they might. But there has to be something written, videoed. There has to be something more. If he wrote confessions to the warden and put in details of this crime, I'm going to be very weary of that. Yeah, one of his confessions was that he shot both girls, probably because he knew only a bullet after Holman's whack interrogation in 2022. Are we going to drag these guys or what? Yes, well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that, but I have some things I'm putting together. T is Nick, you know he'll call her. It's Nick, you know he'll call her. Yeah. Hey, Snappy. If we're supposed to believe the inmate about the confessions, should we not believe other inmate about the jail conditions? Right. You can pick and choose which ones you believe. Oh, you did? You know, I can't see, and whether it's deleted or not, it still comes up on the StreamYard. They have both, but Ellie re-examined them in 2019, and I think the one, okay, hold on, let me go back. You're answering something here. If they were only generic confessions, why wouldn't the defense detail every one of them? Well, that's my question, Southside Bill. That's my question. Is because I don't think there is as quote unquote many. I don't think there is 30, and I think they are detailing what they are talking about. But if it's not, then I think it's going to be important. I mean, Nick doesn't detail them either. If they're not generic, that question goes both ways. If they're not generic and they're on the money, why doesn't Nick detail them? Teresa Manning. I want to read this comment, but it's gonna show my childlike brain. Teresa, everybody forgot that he was threatened by the guards if he didn't come fast, he would harm his family. I'm sorry, you guys. That's a great question too, I have Apophis. It's supposed to be confess, I think. I think it is. I was like, do I want to highlight this? Because this is gonna be a problem for me. I'm sorry, Teresa. Confess. It's gotta be confess. If he didn't confess, they would harm his family. And that's not funny. It's not a funny statement, but it's just funny. I'm sorry. Bad sense of humor. I've also been on for 2.5 hours, and this shit happens towards the end of the lives. I kind of lose it. Behave. I just, sometimes I can't. Okay, let me go back to the actual question. So, man in solitary was able to confess to 30 plus people. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's why I'm like, I don't think it is 30 people. I think we're talking about a chain of command. I think that there's a group that are aware of whatever happened, and Nick in his filings put in like, I'm going to call every single one of them. And that's why, hold on real quick, guys. Hence, that's why when they were actually going to trial in May, they had like 180 people on their witness list, and they're like, oh no, we've kind of narrowed it down to like, the 40 or whatever. And the defense was like, well, we still have to prepare because we don't know which people they're actually gonna call. So we have to prepare for their entire witness list. But I think that was to inflate the amount of people they had to do it. Let's not pretend that they don't know all of this is public and that we're all talking about these filings. So that a lot of things that are put into filings on both sides is done intentionally. We can't just say that it's not. We can't just say like, oh, that just because they put it in here, it's absolutely, it's not that it's not fact, but it's convoluted. I have no issue with believing RA, as we also believe EF, because from what I can tell, they're both having mental challenges at the time, right? So Bill says, let me see. He made confessions to his wife, his mother, the prison warden, 16 correctional officers, 8 inmate companions, multiple mental health staff members, and multiple ISP police officers. So let me ask you this. Multiple ISP police officers. Let's just take that one thing into consideration. How many ISP officers had access to Richard Allen or spoke to Richard Allen? 8 inmate companions, 16 correctional officers. You think they had 8 inmate companions that were floating around and talking to Richard Allen? I don't. How are they going to explain away not bringing the inmate under subpoena? Well, she's not. She doesn't care. She made the decision, and they called her a liar. She calls them a liar, and we've never heard anything else about it. So that is okay. So let's go. Let's talk a little bit about what is upcoming. I'll take this down actually. So like I said at the beginning of this live, if you guys popped in later, I'll do a little bit of a refresher, but there has been some commentary being put out by podcasters and quote unquote whistleblowers. I guess you'd call them. I don't know if they actually qualify as that, but on certain information. So what I'm hearing publicly is a lot of the opinions that are being stated by the podcasters. So one thing that we're going to be doing, and I have a couple lovely people that are going to help with this, is putting together what was actually said versus what is being said that was said, with the added commentary around it. And then we're going to see exactly how much that's being spread around social media has to do with the commentary around it versus what was actually said. Now, here's the thing. So I'm not being cryptic. There has been 5, I don't even fucking know how many there are now, podcasts that have been put out by a duo called The Murder Sheet, and they are reading what they say are messages that they obtained, quote unquote, legally from a person who, quote unquote, owned this account. And in doing so, they are creating a narrative around these messages. So I will say publicly right now, so if anybody is listening to this that has these messages and has the ability to send them to me, I will absolutely take that into consideration. But as of right now, the people that I know that have access to these messages cannot access the full messages because a specific account has been terminated and I cannot get them in their entirety. That is a problem for me because what I plan to do is to show simply the facts behind them, but I cannot access them in their entirety. So if anybody that is listening has access to them in their entirety, I would like to show just the facts behind it and separate out the commentary that has been added to it. so that us as the listeners can break down the actual words and context of what was used or what was said. Like I said, I cannot do that at 100% as of now because the actual account has been terminated. Therefore, those messages no longer exist. Now, that is an interesting thing for me because in the wanting the transparency and saying how important it is that this information is put out to the world, why are we not being given the actual messages? Number one. Number two, why are the people who were involved in these messages not able to now defend themselves because the information is gone? Three, how would anybody besides the people involved in this chat know the personalities or the context of these messages when they don't know the people? It's very different than if I'm in a group chat with people, I get to know them, they get to know me. You typically can tell, but it's always still hard without Bob's tone and tenor. It's still hard to gauge exactly what's being said. But when you get to know people, you have a better perception of what that person means when they say things. So for me, I can only take the information that we've been quote unquote given in its without context form, and then I'm going to base my opinions on my channel around that information. So that's one plan, but I have some help putting together some visual aids as we go through it, because as anybody who has watched me cover Delphi, I cannot play content that doesn't belong to me because Murder Sheet likes to copyright strike me. So in turn, I will be using transcripts, and you can go back and take what I say from the transcript and match it to what is said in the actual audio if you choose to. I will not be able to use the audio because I don't want to deal with the copyright and then having to fight the copyright, even though I won and I would win again because it's fair use. That's a lot of wasted time that I don't plan on doing. So that's my number one. My number two is I chose a path today to not do that, because I know after I listened to an episode from today, I knew my emotions were involved. And so I did not want to present it with the emotional basis behind it. What I want is to be able to bring you it in black and white. And then that way we don't have my emotion behind it. Does that make sense? So that doesn't mean that I won't have an opinion. It just means I won't be emotional about my opinion. But I want to give it to you in black and white. So that's one thing that we're going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing, but I have help making it. So, and and you're right, Miranda, I absolutely agree with you. Except for what it does affect is the well-being of other people on the internet. And I'm taking offense to that. And I'm taking offense to the fact that there is what I perceive to be a concerted effort to destroy the defense and the constitutional rights of anybody. And I have a problem with that. So I need to, and I'm saying this slowly because I need to be very precise on what I say, because I don't want my emotion to come behind it. I want you guys to be able to see the orchestrated effort that is being done to try to influence public opinion on not only other people on social media, but to try to influence the case itself by having people turn on each other. I very much always try to focus on peace. I think that peace ultimately in the end is healing. That does not mean that people need to be friends again. And so I want to take my emotion out of it because at the end of it, I want people to look at it for what it is and not for what they feel like it is. So that's where I'm at. But that's where I'm at. So once again, if anybody has the communications in their entirety and is willing to share them with me, I will absolutely be thankful and utilize that instead of anything else. But as of right now, that's all I can do. But I will not sit back and let an orchestrated effort to destroy a man's constitutional rights and his right to a defense team based on somebody else's vendettas. So that's what I won't do. I tried to do that and let it go because it's not my fight, but the Constitution is my fight, and I'm going to continue to fight for that. And I have a problem with shilling for anything. So that's number one. Number two is we do know that we have some hearings coming up next week on, I believe, I pulled them. I think it was like 10 on 10 different motions that are still pending. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. And so I'm going to do a live next week and go through all of the pending motions that are going to be heard at the hearings on July 30th, July 31st, and August 1st, so that when we cover, and hopefully we have somebody in the courtroom that does want to come up on panel and share what they share their notes, or share even just share their notes with me if they don't want to come on the panel. And then that way we have somebody who is in the courtroom and we can hear it firsthand. If Bob is going, which I assume he is, but I don't know, so I hate to say that, then we'll probably just come on and we'll probably watch Bob. But I'll still do it on my channel. And then if we don't have somebody with their own notes, we'll do our compilation of everybody's, including people that are pro-prosecution and pro-defense, pro-whatever, or pro-constitution. There, that's pretty much it. So then I will do, so we're going to be back on the Delphi train for a hot minute. Oh, True Crime Grit, for real? That's awesome. Thank you. We'd be very thankful to you for that. Hi, Mar. Sweet. That's great. Thank you. I would love to have you come on. All Eyes and Delphi's like, yay, because I volunteered you earlier. So we'll do a live before the hearings to go over what to expect from the hearings. And then Travis isn't here tonight, but hopefully maybe Travis can come on and help with that too, just kind of break things down. Now, you phone people who know all the stuff about the phone data and the pings and all the different things and that terminology, if you guys want to volunteer, then you want to come on and do a whole breakdown of what the difference is and what we should be looking at and what we should be looking for. You want to volunteer for that job? I'm looking at a couple of you guys in chat. You just let me know and we'll schedule that live too. Ping pong, bing bong. Okay, so you're not a professional, DB. I get it. But there was another one that I wanted to do. What was the other one? I had 3. Oh, that is 3. That is 3. Yep. So that's kind of the plan for next week. But I am going to finish off with Black Swan. Today was day 3. The prosecution has already arrested, and I'm not sure that they've proved their case yet. But we're going to do an update tomorrow. Cross my fingers. Update tomorrow on that case. I don't think the defense's case is even going to last very long. This was only scheduled for like a week or 2, but my life has kind of gotten in the way of my true criming. So, hey, Shelly. Terre Haute's lower litigation, even Delphi. Litigant. Let me see. What did Scott say that's bingo? I haven't seen any incriminating evidence that supersedes the Elvis Fields and Brad Holder verified evidence. Agreed. And as we know, Nick McClellan doesn't get to decide what is exculpatory and what the defense's strategy is going to be. I've only been wrong once, and that's when I thought I was wrong once. My dad used to say something very similar to that, Scott. Aww. Unfortunately, I know what you're saying, but it isn't. Not yet. It's not. This is tough because, of course, it's ultimately about getting justice for two murdered girls. But the trial, if it was just about the two murdered girls or any victim whatsoever, if it was just about that, we would be back in the olden days where it was like, nope, we feel like it's enough, hang the guy, and that's it, it's over. But the trials are created, and the reason that they are defendants have the right to have counsel and have a defense attorney is to protect their constitutional rights. The trial is for the defendant. It just is. It's not even. It's the state versus whoever the defendant is. That sounds cold. I don't mean it like it's cold, because ultimately the end game is to get justice for two little girls. But the trial is about the constitutional rights of the defendant. And it just is. The judge doesn't seem to think the defense gets to decide that either. Yeah, it doesn't seem the defense gets to. Yeah. Did T talk about the KMS correspondence? I haven't. You fell asleep. Bean, stop that. No. So we can real quick, though, before we go. There was a correspondence that was filed by a KMS. The correspondence is on the documents, but the document is sealed. I don't obviously know who it is. I can infer who I believe it is, but I don't know. I can't say for sure. Obviously, it's Kelsey's initials. I don't know why her correspondence would necessarily even have to be posted. She has the right to talk to people, but I'm assuming maybe there's something directly to the judge about something specific, so they don't want it public. If it is her, it may not be her, but I cannot find another thought, and maybe somebody will correct me, on why a communication that they've had no problem making public from every other person, including initials and made-up names, they would seal this one and not allow it to be public. It makes sense for it to be her, but I cannot prove that it is. That's a very good point. So you did hear back, and she told me it is confidential, but she forgets that we've had this discussion multiple times, and there needs to be a reason and a form filled out to seal it. So that's what I said. I mean, but ultimately, I don't know if it really doesn't matter. I mean, she has communications with people all the time that aren't public. So to me, if it is her, like, okay, great. It's just interesting. And because family is gagged, but are they really gagged? I mean, can they legally even really be gagged? And especially when we know from some family members that they never even received a gag order. No, Sinbad, you're not blocked. I see you right there. Did I miss a comment from you? I may have, because I sometimes start looking around the room instead of looking at chat when I talk. I need to get myself some second accounts there, Miranda. I'll follow you around and be like, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm going to be like, can you tell? Do you know it's me? Did you find me? DB. All right, I'm just checking. I'm just checking chat and see if there's anything that I need to talk about. Rick just needs to stay alive until trial. Right. And I will say, I don't have, if he is the guy that did it, then by all means, lock him up. Like, I have no, what do they say? Like dog in that race, or whatever it is, whatever that saying is. If he's the guy who did it, by all means, show the evidence, prove it, and put him in jail. Like, or put him in prison. Yeah, I think they're willingly gagged. I mean, it is. So, I shouldn't. I'm going to say this. Let's just say the family is under a gag order. There's a lot of people up in arms right now about this gag order and the protection order, and that's one thing we're going to go through that when we do the back and forth on what's accurate from these messages and what we know to be true. But we're going to talk about the gag order again. And Sleuthy and I did this already. We did a whole live on the gag order and the protection order and what it means and what it entails. So let's just say that the family is under a gag order, and there is an uprising on social media right now of somebody else who they believe was under a gag order at the time. Let me just preface this by saying the person that they're in an uproar about wasn't actually under a gag order at the time. And there's this whole uprising about this person sharing information in violation of this gag order and shouldn't be talking to anybody on social media because of the gag order. Well, if the families are truly under a gag order, we know damn well that the families are talking to some of the people that are involved in the uprising of the other people talking about the gag order. I know, that was a lot. So take that and run with it. Or don't let the real dragon know, because he'll start wanting to he'll clip something like that I don't know that I talked in a circle. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna go have dinner. You guys go enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I will be back tomorrow. We'll be talking about Black Swan. If it's a case that you're interested in and you don't know anything about it, I did an entire 4-hour live. You can watch it on 2x speed. You would know anything and everything there is about the case. You probably actually will know more about the case from that perspective than you actually will know from the trial, because so much of it has been blocked from being presented in the trial. That's tough, but it is what it is. It is what it is. That's how the rules of evidence go. And some things get in, some things don't. So, but other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. So unless something pops off with Delphi, which I doubt it will, because of the hearings coming next week, we may get some more filings heading up into those hearings next week, but I don't know. Fridays are kind of funny. Sometimes they like to throw a bunch of shit at us through the weekend. But I'll see you guys tomorrow night if you guys are interested in that case. The defense will probably be done, I think, either tomorrow or Monday. But I will see you guys mañana. Go have fun. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I know you guys have 1,000 other places you could spend your time. And for whatever odd reason, you still choose to spend your time here with me. I don't know why, but I'm very humbled by it. And I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everybody who was contributing to the future purchase of transcripts for what we're going to need next week to get the factual information. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Have a good one.